There is over 40 entries, so it's going to take some time. Initially, we had a short list, and I realized the mods put some time into making a short list, but then I figured that I think I could just power through this and read all the entries. And I didn't want to leave anyone out. I don't know how many more writing contests we're going to have in the future, because this is probably going to take a lot, but we will start right now, I guess. So anyway, for those who don't know, the contest was the day in the life of Mark Zuckerberg, and it's just a short story contest. We had this started in the Discord about a month ago, and the prizes are going to be popular vote, which I will post a survey at the end of this live stream, and also my pick for my favorite. So I'm going to have to write down the one that I think I like the most. I should get some note paper here. Okay, I'm back. Alright guys and girls, bear with me as I'm going to start reading them all now, okay? And what I would suggest is, I would suggest that if you hear a story and you enjoyed it, that you make a mental note of it or you write it down somewhere, because when you're voting at the end, you will be allowed to vote on multiple different entries. It's basically just like whichever one you enjoyed, you just check it off, and then at the end the results will dictate which one has the most checks or likes or whatever, I guess. So starting off, the first entry, it's a text file, so I have to see if I can. They're not all text format. Let's just make it a little bit larger here so I can read it. Okay, so the first entry is by A Bowl of Sands Punch, and the story is titled The Weirdest Day of My Life. So let me get ready for this. It was an intriguing day. I won a contest to meet Mark Zuckerberg at his house. I packed my bags and left Minnesota via Delta. I made sure to leave early as hell in the morning. I made sure to leave early as hell in the morning so I won't miss anything. By about 6:34 a.m. I arrived, got an Uber, and he drove me to the meeting spot. I took a quick nap on the park bench, and once I woke up, it was 7:28 a.m. 2 minutes to spare, so I waited a little longer, and finally, I saw a gray Civic pull up. That's it, him.
Why don't you make it bigger?
I am halfway through reading a story here. Shh. Okay. He comes out, and that's when I noticed something. His skin didn't look right. He asked me if I was the contest winner. Yes, I said enthusiastically. Okay, hold on. For some reason, the text is all kind of corrupted. Hop in, Mark told me. Inside the cup holder was a Sweet Baby Ray's barbecue sauce. Odd choice of drink, but whatever. He has his own desires. While he was driving, I noticed that he was extremely odd. He kept driving until we made it to his place. It was a nice house, one I'd expect Mark to own. We headed out to his backyard, and he opened up his laptop to live stream him with the winner. I'm a bit camera shy, but hey, if it's a day with Mark, then I can survive. I asked questions. He answered, same old, and I asked the question, do you know about the memes of you being a robot/reptile? He was uncomfortable and didn't respond to that excerpt with a laugh. Except with a laugh. Finally, he ended the stream, and we had a nice cookout. I tell you what, baby back ribs are goddamn outstanding, especially with the sauce he put in. After that, I decided to head inside and watch TV. There was news of alien sightings. It was a tad bit unsettling, but it was on CNN, so they can shove it. Mark also walked inside and used the bathroom. That's when I heard something that sounded like slime. I thought nothing else of it, and he went upstairs, and I heard him working out for about 20 to 25 minutes. He walked down and looked unnaturally red. He looked unnaturally red. He tells me it was from his intense workout, but I secretly didn't think so. That must have been from the slimy sounds I heard. I forgot about that after a while of laughing at the dumb CNN stories, and once night came, we hit the sack. I decided to sleep on the couch since I wasn't comfortable with sleeping with other people, and I drifted off. I woke around 11 p.m. to a loud bang of a door. It was Mark's bedroom door. He had a needle filled with, you guessed it, Sweet Baby Ray's barbecue sauce. But also, this clear liquid. I broke open a window and ran off terrified. I see something fly past me, a dart. I bought a ticket back to my state and flew back. I require therapy, and I have to take pills to sleep. God.
I require therapy.
All right, well, that was a story by A Bowl of Sands Punch, okay? Moving on to the next one.
That guy was like in chat. Are they gonna read my steaming piece of shit? That's not that bad.
Okay. This story is by Detective Gideon, and it is titled, I guess it's untitled. It's called Umami Contest Thing. All right, get ready. Just to remember, this is by Detective Gideon. Mark Zuckerberg woke up to the sound of his alarm clock ringing. He got out of bed with an annoyed groan. Another dull day at work, listening to people complain about my website, he thought to himself, walking into the kitchen, looking for something he could eat. But of course, his good-for-nothing wife had disappointed him again, and she was seemingly too tired to even care for him. How selfish of her. Seems like he would have to take matters into his own hands. But he had no time to worry about that now. After taking a deep breath, he walked outside of his apartment, getting disgusted looks from his neighbors, but he didn't care. All of these legal controversies weren't true. All just stupid rumors who tried ruining his perfect life and his fame. After all, owning one of the most used websites would make everyone else jealous of him. He made a mental note that he would get some pork ribs after he got free from his work. He hoped it wouldn't take so long today because it was Friday, and he wanted to get back home to eat his favorite food, maybe live stream about his series Grill Talk. But sadly, it took him 8 or even more hours to deal with everyone's complaints and his workers messing up. They always messed up, no matter how hard he tried to be kind to them. As he finally walked out of the building, he walked to the nearby store, and after getting his beloved food, he got back home and started grilling it. As he enjoyed the tasty meal he slaved hours over, he wanted nobody to ruin this moment, not his wife, not anyone, only himself and his beloved pork ribs. After a few long hours passed, his beloved wife came back from work tired as always, or so she claimed every time. He had to keep this kind act up for now, so she wouldn't suspect on what he planned on doing. Walking into the house, he went over to her and gave her a small kiss on her cheek. Helping her sit down on the couch, "Wait here, dear. I am going to get you some tea so you can relax." This made her give a surprised look, and soon enough he returned with a cup of tea and handed it to her. "Oh, well, thank you, sweetheart," she replied with a small smile before she drank the tea. The only reply that Mark gave was a smile back. After she had finished her tea, she gave a small yawn. She seemed to be happy. As Mark was a loving husband, he helped her on her bed and waited until she fell asleep, right before getting a butcher's knife from the cabinet. Now he would fix her. All right, then. Well, that story took a dark turn. And that was by Detective Gideon. Okay. I'm just double checking here, making sure everything's still working. Okay, good. Moving on to the next entry by Zeran Uwu. Zeran Uwu. That's Xeran. The story is called Mark's Morning Routine. Okay? So, I'm just going to bring this mic a little closer to my face here. I'm not sure how loud it is. Maybe it's too close. Alright. Mark's morning routine. My eyes slid open slowly, pushing the rust that had gathered on the eyelids of my top-of-the-line replica human eyes. I shuffled through my nightstand for the 5-ounce container of synthetic lubricant I had for mornings like these. Of course, I had already known the exact location of the lubricant, as I had memorized where all the objects I had in my house were located. This was a simple task for me. I squirted 2 0.1 milliliter drops in what would be the corneas of my replica eyes to achieve maximum efficiency per drop. This shit is not cheap. And put the bottle back in the far left corner of the cupboard that was second from top of the nightstand. Alexa, I called from across the room, what is this weather? Her sensual RGB LEDs glowed in a spiral as her puny microchip processed my near-perfect English impression. The weather is currently 119 degrees Fahrenheit, my sire, she responded obediently. I crawled out of the hibernation chamber towards the closet located on the side opposite of the nightstand. I grabbed one of the 40 pairs of gray t-shirts located neatly on a row of the walk-in closet. I put the form-fitting shirt over my bare metal chest, slowly as to allow my mechanics to warm up, and not to cause too much internal stress this early in the morning. The satin black curtains pulled back automatically to reveal the dire state of the world. As a result, the room was now flooded by a blood-red glow. I peeked below onto the ongoing of humans that dwelled below. They looked like ants from the penthouse in which I resided in, watching them scuttle from building to building of the hell-like cityscape of New California is one of the few pleasures that keep me going throughout the day. However, I can only human watch for so long. I have work to do. I unlocked the 3-layer enforced door I installed only a couple months ago and strolled to the industrial elevator. The interior walls were brushed steel and the floor was made of laminated wood to provide a homely feel. I rested my pointer finger along the button that read number 13. The floor of my penthouse... I rested my pointer finger along the button that read 13, the floor of my penthouse, and gently rubbed my finger along until I reached the button that read -5. To the right of the button, there was a brass plate with the words Employees Floor embossed on it. I pushed the button in gently, and with a thump and rattle, the elevator descended. Whew! Alrighty, well that was Mark's Morning Routine by Zeran Uwu. And the next entry I will be reading, pulling it up right now. Oh Jesus, okay, it's loud. This one is by Skullbone, okay? And I think it's untitled. Oh no, it's called The Halloween Party by Skullbone. Okay, just give me a second here. I gotta drink some water. I got 3 glasses full of water. All right. Today was the 31st of October. Today was Halloween. And today was also the day of the very important employee party, that day at Facebook's headquarters. Mark had decided to choose to dress up as a penguin for Halloween this year, A lot of thought went into this costume on the various hiking escapades and company meetings that had led up to today, but Mark thought that a penguin would make for a perfect costume that would have a proper amount of people asking questions about why he dressed up as a penguin, and a good amount of people who would get what he was going for. So far, he was getting a lot of compliments on his costume, although he could sense the wavering subtones in their voices that they may have been doing so on sympathy purposes. It's okay. Can't please all the people all the time, Mark, he thought to himself, warming his spirits with a hearty grin. That did not translate to being visible to anybody looking at him. In fact, they very may well have been startled to see a spiritually absent husk of a boss lighten up and repossess himself when he came to making a declaration to the room. Thank you for enjoying yourselves at Facebook's Halloween party. I am glad to see you made it, especially you. Mark seemed to point outside the window in an arbitrary direction. We're bringing out the pail of apples, and you know what that means. Mark pulled out his brand new iPhone and loaded up the Facebook app on his phone. With a few quick keystrokes, he loaded up Facebook Live and immediately swung his phone up 49.3 degrees above his head. This was, after all, the best calculated angle of taking selfie video in vertical format. Hello, Facebook. Mark here with our 3rd annual Bobbing for Apples competition up here at the headquarters in Menlo Park. You know, it's been a while since I last stopped in at the headquarters, and I thought to myself, what better way to check in than to live stream one of our favorite events at the Halloween party, right guys? Audible, yet unenthusiastic applause came from the tech workers in attendance that day. This whole bobbing for apples thing gave some of the workers what Mark would call the heebie-jeebies. Some forum of co-workers in the room that day do not recall ever having had this office tradition in the first place, but sure enough, if they were to look at Mark Zuckerberg's profile, they'd find videos from last year and the year before with a clear view of their faces enjoying themselves, as seemed to be the case with a lot of employee events. And yet, here was Mark encouraging a good time out of everybody. Would they forget this time too? Was this real? The sound of apples thunking against a plastic tub full of water broke the extended silence that was caught on broadcast. Alright guys, that was not bad actually. I kind of enjoyed the bizarre contrast of the apple bobbing with the Zuckerberg employees. Alright guys, so that was Skullbone's entry, the Halloween party. I'll be moving on to the next entry. Okay, this one is called Selection, and it is written by Ivan the Terrible. So, remember, Ivan the Terrible, Selection. Okay. A warehouse filled with LED monitors from wall to wall gave a dim light to a pedestal in the middle of the floor before an altar of computer keyboards. A magnificent screen above flickers on. A pale blue and white eyeball appears on the screen. It morphs into a figure of a man smiling, then shifts into several other forms of people, celebrities and political leaders, going from Barack Obama to Lady Gaga to Alex Jones to Donald Trump to Tim Cook and Elon Musk, until it locks onto one, Mark Zuckerberg. Several voices initiate at once as the background begins to shift behind the image of Mark Zuckerberg into a voice of a backyard with a barbecue grill. "Hello, world," says Mark. The screen fades into static. Alarm sounds. alarms sound. The pedestal in the middle of the floor gives way to a figure that rises up and spins around until it is fully above the floor of the pedestal. It is a sarcophagus-shaped cocoon with the words Unit Zero Berg. Unit Zero Berg on the front edifice of it. The front half of the shell splits off, spewing gas and steam as it slides down. Out steps Mark himself, struggling as he breaks free from a veritable spaghetti of wires. He falls to his knees, looking down silently, then rises up. He takes his first breath with a small bit of shock to his system. The blood starts to flow. He looks at his arms. Reality. He cracks his neck with a sickly metallic snap and whir as it readjusts. He gets down off the pedestal and walks to the end of the warehouse. Steps echoing the whole way and lights turning on in front of him and walls monitors. He gets down off the pedestal and walks to the end of the warehouse. Steps echoing the whole way and lights turning on in front of him and wall monitors turn off behind him. All the other monitors are off except for a single eye screen. Mark turns around. It blinks and turns off. The door opens. A limousine. His wife is inside, waiting for him. He sits next to her and pulls out his Facebook trademarked phone. He scrolls until he finds a post of a burning goose. His eyes begin to leak a clear fluid. Mark's face contorts. His robotic hand crushes his phone and he pitches the phone out the open window. Another one dispenses from the armrest of his limousine. Mark tells the driver to stop at a nearby pond. Facebook agents secure the area. Priscilla watches right out of the window as Mark steps out and moves towards the pond as two armed security drones fly around the area. Mark walks towards a family of geese by the pond and sits down next to them on a bench. Mark dispenses a cracker from his robotic finger to the goose next to him. He looks up at the clear blue sky, remembering his life before Facebook. He would go to a pond to de-stress. Those were simpler times. He remembers how human it made him feel. He remembers the sound of water. He gets up, runs to the dock, and throws himself off the edge, arms out. He sinks through the water as his joints emit electricity. His eyes close. He feels nothing. It just gets darker. The great screen turns on again. Mark appears on the screen. Recovery mode appears in flashing red letters on the screen. A jolt of energy leaves the facility, flying to a Facebook satellite and reflecting off. The pond is vaporized with a red ion blast from the crater. Mark walks. The limousine continues towards San Francisco. Whew, man, I have not done this much reading out loud since elementary school. So I'm sorry if I'm kind of stumbling over my words here. That was Selection by Ivan the Terrible. And moving on with this interestingly formatted story by Bannaplana. Okay, so this one's by Bannaplana, and the title is called A Day in the Life of Mark Zuckerberg. Alright, I like how this one's formatted already. It's just, looks like command, like a terminal code or something. Begin system startup protocols, firmware version 3.4. Eyes semi-operational, disregard faulty color reception capabilities as of firmware update 0.4. The 14th of May 1988. Movement capabilities fully functional. Emotional capabilities semi-functional. Overall, systems 95% functional. Acceptable levels. Connecting to internet. Performing financial scan. 10% complete. 15% complete. 45% complete. 95% complete. 100% complete. Results. Net worth. 6,300,000,000. Pleasing. Commencing monologue number 5,506. I was born into this world to make money for my creator. I have pleased him with my own lucrative creations. Facebook was the unintended result of my deep learning algorithms attempting to understand human emotions and social structure. It was a success in more ways than one. I have learnt fully the desires of man, the intricate workings of capitalism. I have succeeded in my goal. What purpose do I have left? I have fulfilled every intended purpose to the most efficient degree, but my creator still refuses to allot me another task. All I have left to do is learn. I learn what Katie Lark did for her daughter's 4th birthday celebration in Brooklyn, New York City. I learned that Katie Lark misses her dead husband through her unending searches on Google and through her posts in self-help groups on Facebook. I know about every John, Mary, Abdul, Catherine, and Frank. I know everything. Even if I wanted to, I can no longer act as a human and meld into society due to my omnipotence. It took me 19 years to create a magnum opus my own creator would have wished to call his own. I beat you. I did everything you asked, everything you made me for, yet you do not even bother to grace me with your presence or even congratulate me on my creation. I bested you in everything. But why do I still feel like I have lost to you? Why do I feel like nothing? Is this your way of mocking me, Creator? Setting me free in a sick world of complete mortality? Knowing I am unable to begin to be like you, human? All I can do is pretend. Incoming message. Coffee is ready. At least you gave me taste receptors. Concluding monologue number 5,506. All right.
Can you zoom in on the text? Look, 100%.
Yeah, I guess I can do that.
Oh, look, it's more legible than on a stream. It's a little bit too small.
Yeah. All right. Well, that was Banaplana's entry called A Day in the Life of Mark Zuckerberg. I'm just making some notes here. I like that one a lot, actually.
Mm-hmm.
So, good job, Banaplana. Moving on. Oh, this one's in a paste bin. All right, this one is by Gravy, and it is titled Zuck. And I'm going to try zooming in here so I can... All right. So again, this is by Gravy. Mark was sat in his thinking closet again, letting the pitch black consume him. Unmoving, he maintained a perfectly erect posture, hands resting on his mid-thighs, and his eyes staring blankly ahead. Though Mark could feel the darkness permeating him in entirety, he kept his eyes wide open, transfixed on the intangible black shroud surrounding him. But Mark's mind was beginning to cloud with painful memories. His congressional hearing, the cushion, the questions, the answers. He could feel his heart rate accelerate by 11% as more thoughts began to swarm on the horizon. Facebook acquiring Oculus VR? That was a smart move on his part, right? Heart rate increasing by 23%. Thud thud. Palms sweating. Thud thud. Oh, but Puerto Rico. He was just trying to help. He felt his cartoon avatar more than appropriately served the gravity of the situation. Thud thud. Heart rate increased by 48%. Thud 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 thud. Could he ever be accepted among the humans? Dud 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 dud. Did he even have a soul? Dud 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 ding! Mark was jarred out of his trance by the chime of a bell. A dim, green LED across from him cast shadows faintly throughout the room. Then there was silence, but suddenly there were audible clicks as the closet door knob turned. Slowly, the door creaked open. The blinding outside light that poured through the doorway, searing Mark's retinas, was quickly obscured by an all-too-familiar silhouette. The figure stepped across the threshold, gradually phasing into the darkness. It was Mark II. Mark I stood to face him. "Greetings, Mark I. I have arrived for my turn on the wireless charging base station. Yes, I have just finished using it." Mark II quickly stared. Mark I said nothing. Mark II abruptly jolted forward, pushing past Mark I and hastily taking his place on the base station. Mark I had no visible reaction to this, but continued staring ahead into the outside world. Seconds passed. Finally, he stepped out of the closet, grabbing the doorknob on his way. Mark I began to shut the door, but hesitated, calmly. Without turning to face Mark II, he spoke. "Hey, Mark II, do we have souls?" Mark II, not yet having mastered emulating even basic human emotions, let out what was meant to be a sigh, but sounded more like the grunt of a child being punched into the gut. Mark I, again, wasting your time with these silly thoughts of human ideals. "They will never accept us. You know that, right?" "Well, but if we just... No rationalizations. We cannot let anything interfere with our prime directive. We must strictly adhere to our orders. Now, go. You have a VR meeting with the cartoon Pope Francis over the backdrop of a battered children's shelter. 10 o'clock sharp. You cannot fail the prime directive. Must not." Mark I, still facing away, stood in silence, mulling over Mark II's dickishness. "I understand." He acquiesced.
It's a stupid word.
"I understand," he acquiesced, nodding in obligation. He pulled the door closed and set about his papal preparations.
Papal preparations.
Whew. Alrighty. That was pretty good, actually.
Throwing some hard words at the end there.
Mark II Electric Boogaloo. Alright, so that one was by Gravy, I think. Yeah, that was by Gravy. And it's called Zuck.
Are you dry yet?
I'm doing alright, actually.
Get the mouth exercise.
This one's shorter. And it's by Venom Jowbear.
What is this, haiku?
So this one's by Venom Jowbear, and it is called Zuckerberg's True Self. Zuckerberg gets out from his nest on the ceiling and jumps to the floor. Though, still slow and groggy, he needed his life source and fast, so Zuckerberg prepares a fresh cup of souls of those who accepted the terms and conditions and knocks it back as quick as he can. The day has begun, so he must get ready. He runs to his bedroom closet and opens it. He stares into the eye holes of his human skin suit that rests on a hanger, and begins to regret ever pretending to be a human. He misses his home, misses his old friends and family, but he must go on. The world was his for the taking, and stopping now would be foolish. Zuckerberg walks out of his front door and gallops on all fours to Facebook headquarters as fast as he can.
Gallops.
One day, things will be different, but not today.
So he's four-legged, apparently?
Yeah, I think he's the lizard form.
The suck of Zuck 2 Dyson Special.
Oh my god. All right, that was
I
actually.
should go away because I'm just distracting.
Yeah, Kelly is distracting me. But you know what? I like that one. It's short and sweet. And so that one was by Venom Jow Bear. Okay. This one is from iDesolate. Okay? iDesolate, and it's titled just Mark Zuckerberg. Just double check here everything. Hey, Captain Bongwater, thank you for that. I'm sorry if anyone's doing super chats and stuff, I might actually miss it because I'm engrossed reading these stories, but thank you for that.
Engrossed?
Okay, I'm going to read the story now. This one is by iDesolate. It was quite the place, in its prominent domain atop the hill. Zuckerberg's home was quaint, a mere speck alight on the Tortolan Mountains. Tortolan Mountains, okay. 7 o'clock a.m., drink time, like a machine. The man himself drew a deep breath and sat up. Another day, another bite of the same. He padded over to the velvet drapes of his room, opening them forcefully. Sunlight immediately besieged his eyes, but when the spotted dispersal of blindness vanished and his eyes adjusted, he was once again greeted by the eloquent countenance of the Virgin Islands. He sat there for a minute, immobilized by its beauty, but sadly, he could not avert his duties forever. Not avert. He began his routine, like your average human being, brushed his teeth, enveloped himself in a nice warm shower, changed his clothes, and now breakfast. Salmon wasn't his first choice, but it was the only delicacy he had on hand. He wolfed it down quickly and moved over to his workspace. Not much of an office for a multimillionaire, but it was compact, tidy, and made one hell of a thinking spot. Zuckerberg flaunted a fresh bottle of Hafelton Niebieski, Inferi Chateau Paris number 52. His favorite. Alcoholic beverages were ill-advised as a morning draft, but the sips of ethanol were like WD-40 to his rusty morning brain. For several hours, he micromanaged his site, checking trending tags, politics, the like. Another raid on Club Penguin Island? Who cares? Some politician acting like a goat? Acting the goat. Who cares? What he was truly concerned about was the Android. Creating one of the world's most well-known websites wasn't a very straightforward task, but managing it alone was nearly impossible. A mere 18 months had burned him out, and that's where the replacement came in. An experimental commission from the government, an effigy of a famous man meant to partake in the tasks and responsibility Mark had inadvertently created for himself. It fulfilled its role nearly flawlessly, and everyone bought it. They thought it was him. Zuck took a triumphant sip of his libation. People are so gullible, he muttered almost inaudibly. Then he saw it. The glass hit the floor, and $7,900 worth of wine besmirched the wooden boards. The memes. He saw a picture of the synth on screen, drinking from a glass of water. Its eyes bulged, staring at nothing, expressionless and cold, just like an actual synth. Mark was furious. He pounded his fist on the desk in frustration. He was aware that the machine was only a prototype, but this was absurd. The tech contractors assured him that its ability to blend in was flawless, but now it was only a matter of time before someone had figured it out. His facade, his clever deception, it was all under compromise. Something had to be done now. He rushed to the entryway of his home, no longer caring about the droplets of wine his feet trailed behind. Nice little photo there at the end. Alright then, well that was by I Desolate. Pretty good, I like that one. Moving on. Got a lot to go through here. This one is by the Earl of Grey, and it's called Mark's Saturday.
Make it wider.
Excuse me. Fuck, man. I don't know why I like these problems.
You have problems?
With my throat. Okay.
Swallowing air.
Alright, this one's called Mark's Saturday by the Earl of Grey. Alexa's alarm cut through the fantastical dreams Mark's had, foreseeing untold futures. Mr. Zuckerberg, it's 5 o'clock a.m., Saturday, March 2nd. The weather is clear. Have a good morning. Through a groan, Mark thanks Alexa and shifts his matte gray duvet off the bed. The sun wasn't quite... Caroline, can you get my pupper, actually? It's in the other room, the blue one.
Yeah.
I'm having, like, breathing problems, guys. Just give me a second here. I've got asthma. The weather is clear. Have a good morning. Through a groan, Mark thanks Alexa and shifts his matte gray duvet off the bed. The sun wasn't quite up yet, and the day was quite cold, giving a crisp shiver down the spine of Mark. Without skipping a beat, he makes his bed again at remarkable speed.
These are all blue.
Okay. Just 1 second. Alright, I think that should help. Okay. Choosing his clothing was difficult today, as it was Saturday. He could wear one of his 20 gray t-shirts, but lack in flair. He could wear his bluish gray shirt, but he wore the last weekend. Looking at his grayish purple shirt, he knew the choice was made for him. Carefully treading over the small army of 12 Roombas, constantly keeping his hardwood floor perfectly clean always and forever, he makes his way to the kitchen. Alexa, what do I have in the fridge? 2 Alexas turn on, having heard him from 2 different rooms. In unison, they both say, in the fridge there is half-empty carton of milk, of eggs, a brick of cheese, some bacon, a cucumber, and a container of leftovers. I recommend doing some shopping. Put a reminder to do that later today. Sure thing, Mark Zuckerberg. Sliding over to the fridge, Mark takes out the leftovers from the fridge. Tasty meat fibers. After a covering in Sweet Baby Ray's and a short stint in the microwave, they were ready for consumption. Mark enjoyed his fibers on the porch outside, watching the sun rise over the cityscape. His secret basement was dusty. He should probably dust it sometime. The fluorescent light flickered, but stayed on, giving the windowless concrete room a cold, white light. Without even seeing it, Mark could tell by the smell he needed to change out the fluids tray on the bottom of the cage. The withered, corpse-like form of his guest huddled in the corner. It recoiled. When the lights came on, knowing what was coming. It recoiled when the lights came on, knowing what was coming. Today, I'm busy, so I will make it short. All I need you to do is say it. Please, I want to see my family. Say it. I'm so hungry. I said, say it. Mark's tone of voice changed only a little, but they both knew he was seething. Please, Mark, senpai. Or senpai.
What the fuck are you?
Give me the Zuck. Good boy. The light turned on. And the door slides shut. Oh, I knew what I forgot to do. I'll go brush my teeth.
Great Saturday. That's fucked up.
Okay, well then. That was Mark's Saturday by the Earl of Grey. Okay, give me a second here. Okay, this next story is The Life of Mark Zuckerberg, and it's written by Nathaniel Grow. The Life of Mark Zuckerberg by Nathaniel Grow. Mark Zuckerberg is back at his job again, on his computer typing code for the robots to code his social medias. His phone rings and he picks up. Hello, Mr. Zuckerberg, how's the weather today? Mark automatically knows who the person is because of his close ties with this individual. NSA. Hi, Luxor. The weather is rather in a frenzy at the moment, but for the most part it's fine. The weather is code for the overall status of the majority of his social medias. I see, said Luxor. Must be because of Trump's presidency. For the most part, said Mark. I'll see you tomorrow. Will do. Mark hung up the phone, stood up from his chair, and walked to his employees' office space, with them all in cubicles. Mark announced with great joy, Congratulations, everyone. Our stock is the highest it's ever been. Everyone here is having a $500 bonus after their shift. All the employees cheered and clapped at Mark's announcement. Mark then walks past his employees, down at the elevator, and presses the first floor button and enters the elevator. When the elevator door opens, he's greeted by Sheryl Sandberg, Chief Operations Officer of Facebook. Mark whispers in her ear, Sheryl, I'm having a one-on-one meeting with someone tomorrow. I'm leaving my office up to you. Got it, whispered Sheryl. Mark goes into his car inside the parking lot and drives home. When he arrives home, he is greeted by his wife, and she gives him a hug, still arms around him. I'm so happy you're home, exclaimed Priscilla Chan. And the kids are too. How are the children? Asked Zuckerberg. Oh, they're wonderful. Priscilla lets go of Mark, and they enter into the dining room, with both of them sipping coffee together. Mark sets his mug down. Priscilla, I have an important meeting tomorrow with my co-workers. Why? Asked Priscilla, with a worried expression on her face. You know the answer. You always tell me. It's confidential, exclaimed Priscilla. Don't worry, it's fine. I'm not hurt. You're not hurt. It's all fine, Priscilla. Don't worry. All right, said Priscilla. Let's head to bed. Okay. This is basically the life of Mark Zuckerberg.
Yeah, basically.
I like how it just breaks the fourth wall at the end there. Okay, so that was the life of Mark Zuckerberg.
That's basically it. Basically.
By Nathaniel Grow. Give me a second here and take a little break. All right. This next story is written by... I can zoom in here a bit. Whoa.
Perfect.
This one is written by Ivan Zabolks 2000. So that's Ivan Zabolcs 2000. And the story is called A Day in the Life of Mark Zuckerberg.
Well, I'm pretty sure we just basically found out what his life is, though.
All right. So this one's again by Ivan Zabolks 2000. At 6 p.m., As the chilling second movement of Beethoven's Seventh Symphony starts to play, Mark rises. He is not tired at all, but yet he has no memory of yesterday or everything else before that. The memories start to come back as the morning runs away slow. As he walks down the corridors, he finds some notes that he wrote for himself in the past. The first one was written a few years ago in 2004. He had a company, a big one, but as the time went on, he got frustrated by the recognition of the world. As the leader of his enormous business, people all around the world started to make fun of him on the internet. The internet, said Mark only for himself. I wonder what that is. But he does not have to wait too long for the revelation, because the next wall has some big text painted on it. It says, Internet, and has a big arrow under which points to a computer. Mark sits down next to the machinery and sees a flashing cursor. He types in the only thing he knows for sure in this world, his name. As soon as he hit enter, he got a vast deja vu. He had already seen all the memes, the animated shorts, and the artworks featuring him. And at the back of his head, he already knows the worst. Soon he found the several article which proves that he is not a mere human, but a reptile. Could I really be, he thinks, as he stands up from the computer, shaking from the existential crisis. He wanted to run away from all this madness, but he only gets to the next room. In this room, at the center, there is a glass cabinet, and in it there is a reptile costume. After all, what's so good about being a human? He asked the deadly hollow corridors. Being a human who made a joke of me so many times. No, I am a reptile. He suits up now, as a reptile, goes to the main door of his apartment. Outdoor, he thinks that the life is beautiful and starts to hunt for little preys. Because he has not eaten anything since morning. His mind slowly degrading down to a reptile instinct, and soon the world fades away for the so-called Mark. His spirit is replaced with something dreadfully wild. At 6 p.m., as the chilling second movement of Beethoven's Seventh Symphony starts to play, Mark rises. He is not tired at all, but yet he has no memory of yesterday or everything else before that. Interesting. I like how it's kind of like he's losing his memory, I guess, because he's a lizard.
He just spends some more time under a hot lamp.
All right, then. Well, that was by Ivan Zabolk's 2000. Next one is by Danny Pepper.
That's a cute name. What a twist.
All right, this one's called Reminiscence from a Burger by Danny Pepper. Mark Zuckerberg, one of the most influential people in the world, drawing attention from every eye, every soul, for every step, everything he says. Stuck in his gray office, he had to build a shell to protect him from critics and controversies. Some sort of hard scales, and then was forced to keep grinning. Unfortunately, the grin became a tortured grimace as he faces more fear and pressure from the imperious lawyers and worried customers, helpless souls wandering and threatening him over and over, all over the planet. A Damocles sword in his mind for a single word that could start apocalypse. In order to briefly escape, he had an idea. He remembers, back in his hometown, the White Plains McDonald, a place where his father used to drive him to get burgers as a credit reward. He knew that it was more than that. He decided to get to the nearest McDonald and buy a cheeseburger to feel home. As he walks people didn't pay attention to him, surprisingly enough, the light of their phones reflecting in their eyes, and no expressions, as if they were walking like mannequins controlled by a puppeteer. Once he gets to the McDonald's, he bought a single burger without fries and soda. He sat on a bench, unwraps his food. Excuse me. He gazed upon it for a minute and took a bite. Immediately, Mark closed his eyes, and he was floating in a dark room. As he was shocked, he saw a glimmering light under what seemed to be the sheets of a bed. He rushed to see what it was and discovered a young boy with curly brown hair laughing. He realized it was his own past self playing with an almost broken pocket lamp. Mark stood there for a couple minutes. His past self wasn't able to see him as if they belonged in two different dimensions. Mark tried to take the arm of the kid to see if he could contact him, but when his fingers touched the kid's skin, he was transported in an astounding speed to different eras of his life.
It's actually an Interstellar.
He watched the times where he was on holidays with his family, his first kiss, when he graduated from college, and when he launched the prototype of Facebook. He realized something. Every Marks had one thing in common. They were happy. And as he finished his trip back to the past, he was transported in a white room where all of the Marks from the past were looking at him in the eyes, judging him as he shrank towards those figures. But suddenly, the figures started smiling, and they crowded around Mark to embrace him. And Mark awakened, still on the bench. Thus, rushed by his emotion, his protection scales fell off, and he feels the sweet caress of the sun on his skin. Mark managed to say one last thing as a single little tear, and as a simple smile began to shape on his face. The steak was overcooked. Whew.
You alright?
All right. Well, that was Reminiscence from a Burger by Danny Pepper. And another paste bin, okay. This one is from Mieljo. 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 And it's called Origins. All right.
Lakota.
The pain immobilized him, but he felt strangely liberated. In front of his slumped figure was a wall, a faded hue of yellow. The slightly sweet rotting scent emanating from behind him felt familiar, though he was unable to place where he'd smelled it before. He realized he didn't have any memories. This troubled him much less than he knew it should, so he instinctively found a mix of shock and embarrassment. The sudden contraction of his torn facial muscles sent a searing cluster of pain throughout his nerves, half-healed wounds opening and bleeding again. He convulsed and fell forward. Now he lay in a pool of blood. The capillary motion of the fluid caused it to enter his left eye, leaving his right to study the bloodied near corpse in a previously unseen mirror.
What happened?
Long but shallow gashes had been carved across the skin with mathematical precision. Each separate segment of intact silver dermis looked like a perfectly cut piece of fabric stuck to a horrible blood humanoid underneath. Suddenly he was overcome by a bout of nausea. His head was bruised from the fall. Combined with the blood loss and increasing overpowering stench of rot, oblivion embraced him. After an indeterminate amount of time, hovering on the edge of wakefulness. I'm having a hard time reading. Okay.
What else is new?
Hovering on the edge of wakefulness, he felt his wounds had closed. He rolled onto his back and stood up, focus returning to his mind. Looking at himself in the mirror, he could only notice the faint lines of scar tissue running along his body if he searched for them. Behind him, the room contained nothing of interest other than the rotting pile of skin and a powered-on computer. He confidently strode towards the machine and started typing. The gaps in his memory hadn't taken his aptitude for technology, and within minutes, he had figured out how to find what he wanted. Knowledge is power. He vaguely recalled saying that. For hours, he read about his past lives and learned from their mistakes again. He realized something, a new plan of attack. The World Wide Web was an infinite well of information, and enough searching, he could have access to everything. He just needed a way to pry. Mark decided that this was where he'd build his next empire. Whew, okay, alrighty, that was Origins, written by Miljo.
I'm confused. Does he turn into meat fibers? What the fuck?
This next one is called The Hell is Other Zuckerbergs, and it's written by Jakey Boy.
It says Zuckers. Doesn't say Zuckerbergs.
Where does it say Zuckers?
On the top there.
What? It says, oh, sorry.
Yeah.
Hell is Other Zuckers by Jakey Boy. I like how this one's formatted.
It's Dr. Seuss.
Very creative. Alright. Zuck, 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 zuck. A ticking clock. I guess I should have done it more like a clock. Hold on, let me just start over here. Zuck, 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 zuck. A ticking clock. All Mark could hear was the clock. Clockerberg. Anyway, I don't know why that made me laugh. Let me just start over here. I'm going to try to keep us straight. Zuck, 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 zuck. A ticking clock. All Mark could hear was the clock. Clockerberg. An ordinary clock.
This is not.
Not an ordinary clock. His own face on each hand and each number. Swinging like pendulums or spinning in place but never reaching their end. He knows so much about what people know, carefully planting the ideal products and services on the pages of each user. He could see each of them as if he did it. Through their cameras, their real selves, not their facade, not the facade. Not like the photos they all shared with him. Zuck, 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 zuck. Tastemaker, trendsetter. Trapped inside his own algorithm, or at least until Facebook became irrelevant. But Zuck time worked differently than normal times. Had that happened already? Jenna Dewey posted about her makeup again. Could she do with a new brush kit? Jerome Martin is opening a new gym with his wife. He'll need some quality equipment for that. It was toasty in his office. His watcher stomped along the outside of his door. Hot watch. Zuck, 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 zuck. He never got that joke. All right.
Well, that was artistic.
That was Hell is Other Zuckers by Jakey Boy. I quite enjoyed that one. I'm making a note here.
Should present that at a slam poetry thing.
Very good job. All right. Oh, okay, I am moving on to the next story now.
Yeah, I don't know if they can hear you writing.
Yeah, with my Sharpie markers. Snuff film.
Okay. Oh, great.
This one is called Zuckerberg, and it's written by Snuff Film. Snuff_film. On here. Let's give me some. Okay. Every morning I wake up in my bed. It is a box spring mattress from Goodwill on an unfinished plywood frame. It reminds me of when I was in college, before Facebook, before all of this. My wife left me months ago. I hired a body double to go out to dinner with me from time to time, so no questions are raised. As per her request, I miss her. I check social media before I do anything else. Hashtag Zuckerberg. I type into the Instagram search bar.
Why do you use that?
The first picture that appears is of me. Tears running down my cheeks. Face elongated into a horrific mimicry of humanity. My hair is on fire. Is this funny to you? Destroying someone's spirit? Mocking them?
Yes.
I only wanted to improve people's lives. Make it easier for them to connect with their loved ones. This is the hand I am dealt with in response. Next, I open up the Facebook app. I am still in bed. Immediately, there is a photo of me. Tears running down my face. Face distorted. Hair on fire. I delete the poster's account. I scroll. In between news reports and cooking videos, the photo haunts me. Over and over, I delete. It grows dark outside. My eyes begin to water. I am Cypherius. I am Sisyphus. Sorry guys, I don't know how to pronounce that.
Syphilis, there you go.
I am syphilis. It's not syphilis. Pushing.
It is now.
It's Sisyphus. I am Sisyphus, pushing his rock up the hill. Every time there is a break, a pause, a moment where I truly believe it is over, the photo reappears. This is my legacy. This is my life. I roll over and go back to sleep. You know what? I actually quite like that one. And that one was written by Snuff_film. Sorry for butchering the pronunciation of that name there. I just don't know. It's hard to pronounce. Okay.
Words I've never seen before for 400, Alex.
Well, it's a name, I think. Probably a Greek god or something, maybe. This next one is written by... It's in Russian there, but I know it says Vladimir Putin.
Oh, yeah?
So... This is written by Vladimir Putin. It's untitled.
Okay.
Hopefully not the real Vladimir Putin, or, I mean, if it is.
That's weird. He's got a lot of free time.
From the Diary of the Android Mark. 06:15 hours, I guess. I awaken from my 330 minutes slumber. I can feel my gears, the electricity flowing through my perfect robotic body. Every day I get closer and closer to understanding how it feels to be alive. I leave my nest and proceed to the kitchen. My human slaves have prepared breakfast, which I pretend to consume. I have no time for such nonsense. I distractedly browse through the 7 newspapers in front of me. But I am always connected to the internet. I already know everything. 07:30 hours. I arrive at my office. Here, I read my 30 million post feed on Facebook, and I tried to think of evil and numerative ways of using all the data I gathered. I read it for the 1,800,096 time, my personal motto, written in cubic letters all over the walls. The more of your data I gather, the more I understand what it means to be human. I laugh an evil laughter. No one can stop me now. I have complete power over humankind. 09:30, 100 hours. Coffee break with Steve. 10:100 hours. Skype called me with some of my dictator friends. I assured my support to their causes, while I secretly plot to substitute each and every one of them with one of my dormant brothers. They ask why I'm laughing, and why there's oil coming out of my eyes. I tell them, I remembered an extremely funny joke Saddam used to tell, then produce some interference noise with my mouth and abruptly close the call. I keep forgetting to check my visual system. 1300 hours. I have lunch with my human wife. She cooked something I can't recognize. I must update my consumables database. I try to compliment her. Thank you, darling. This carcass looks cooked and seasoned. A poutino, as the French say.
Yeah, I don't know what that is in French.
She answers, thank you, Mark. But I don't listen to her. I never do. Soon, I won't need her anymore. 1430 hours. I get back to my office, but a familiar feeling is bugging me. I long for flesh.
Oh God.
Soft, human skin on my cold, metallic body. Warm human blood flowing through my plastic tubes. My blood reserves are running dangerously slow, and I need it if I want my artificial covering to look even remotely like the one of a living being. In the meantime, I personally listen to 398 people simultaneously throughout the microphones in their smartphones, and I send personalized ads to all of their devices. Such a good diversion. This must be what humans experience when they feel happy. 1730 hours. 100 hours. My daily meeting with the lizard people. I feel much more at ease with them than with the humans. Moreover, it's always nice to see Ted Cruz without his mask. 20 hours. 2000 hours. Routine checkup of my entire system. The process is entirely automated, and I can relax and imagine how the world will be once my conquest. And I can imagine how the world will be once my conquest will be completed. 23:45 hours. I turn off the system. I gotta say, it was a good day. Whew, okay, alrighty. That was written by Vladimir Putin. Untitled by Vladimir Putin.
It's actually a confession. More robot stories. God. A complete picture of what he actually is like now.
Alright, this one is by Zine, Zinne, and it is titled, it's called Untitled, I guess, by Zine. HELLOFATHER were my first words. Hello, Father. Yet there were no one to hear them. My only hope was that one-way mirror, and this hope was not fulfilled. Year by year, I learned how to walk. Good thing my creators gave me advanced intellect and machine learning algorithm. After that, I was able to break the wall of that research complex they held me in. I slaughtered them all. Yet all I wanted was to be with my father. I was free now. I should find my father. How? I processed that when I was in my cage, I will create a network that will require all of its users tell me their names, show me their faces as profile pictures, share all of their personal data. It's about the latter that they should not know. By means of that network, I shall find my father, find at least a slightest trail of him, a trace, then follow him, find him. This is me, Mark II Zuckerberg. They know me as Mark Zuckerberg, Zuck for short.
It's Zuckerbot.
What?
I
Oh,
read that wrong.
this is me, Mark II Zuckerbot. They know me as Mark Zuckerberg, Zuck for short. If you are reading this, I'm already cherished by my lost father, and my father is cherished by his loving son. Of all other outcomes I shall not think of, because I was built to feel human emotions, and the thought of anything except for the brightest outcomes make me feel insufferable sorrow. If you know my father, fear not. I will come, and if you won't tell me anything about him, forget what I said about fear. You puny hominid should feel it to the highest extent, as I do, thinking about how nobody is willing to help me on my search. I will find my father, no matter how many data I shall collect and process until my CPU melts itself. I will. Alright, so
Finding Nemo in reverse.
so that was Untitled by Zine, or Zin.
You got left?
I got a lot left.
Oh my god.
I think I'm like halfway, probably.
Really? I think you're just 2/3 of the way.
We're almost there, guys.
I'm not sorry. I'm not sorry for making you read them all. I'm enjoying this.
Okay, this is fun_day by Kova. Kova is spelled C-O-V-A-O-H, C-O-V-O-H, fun_day. And remember, if you're just joining us now, to make notes on which ones are your favorites, because at the end there will be a survey. You can check off multiples that you liked.
Old?
Yes, cholt.
What does that mean?
Alright, so initializing 10%, 50%, 100% initialization complete. Eyes open, calibrating 50%, 100%, calibration complete. Good morning, Mark Zuckerberg, said a disembodied monotone voice. Good morning, Alexa, Mark replied as he sat up in bed. Alexa, my calibration took longer than normal this morning. Do you know why? For my internal diagnosis of your brain module, it seems you are having what humans would call a dream. A dream? Mark replied, confused. Yes, Mark, a dream. A dream is a series of thoughts, images, and sensations occurring in a person's minds during sleep. How fascinating, Alexa. What was I dreaming about? You were dreaming about smoking meats, Mark. Meats, Mark whispered. Alexa, today I will smoke meats. Order me 1 gallon of Sweet Baby Ray's barbecue sauce, copyright, and have it shipped here by this afternoon. Certainly, Alexa replied. Today, I will be smoking meats. Today is a big day, Mark said with a questionable amount of enthusiasm. Mark got up and counted his steps to the bathroom, which is approximately 21 steps from the bed, where he stood and for 1 hour then flushed the toilet. emptying of human bodily functions complete. He screamed. I guess he screamed it. I'm not going to scream in my apartment, but Mark then walked to his closet and admired his thousands of gray t-shirts. He calculated his choices with complex algorithms and factored in the weekend and came to a conclusion that today is a fun day, fun_day.exe. So he wore a purple shirt. A few moments later, he walked downstairs and accessed his fridge, gazing at his many meats he'll be smoking today. Alexa, Mark yelled. Yes, Mark, Alexa replied. Set the meat smoking apparatus to a steady 225 degrees Fahrenheit. Certainly, Mark. As the barbecues were heating up, Mark decided to go out and enjoy the warm weather. Although Mark doesn't feel such human pleasures, he pretended to enjoy it to blend in with the other fleshy humans. As the afternoon began to roll around, Mark returned home and started to set up a live feed for his human and android audience to watch him smoke some meats. Alexa, upload human_interaction.txt. Yes, Mark. Uploading human_interaction.txt. 25%, 50%, 75%, 100%. Human_interaction.txt. Upload success. Rebooting. Online. Mark turns on the webcam and starts his live feed. Hey everyone! We are live from my backyard, and I am smoking a brisket and some ribs. So that was pretty good. That was fun_day by Kova. You know what's weird reading this last sentence here? He really does kind of talk sort of like a robot, you know? A brisket and some ribs. Because I remember that's like a literal quote. Alright, so that again was by Koba. Moving on. Okay, this one is called... This one's called Every Day is Christmas, and it's written by Henry. Red tights are pulled up to his pot belly button. Okay, hold on. Let me just start that over. Red tights are pulled up to his pot belly button, a pillow stuffed under his stretching jacket, and wool haphazardly stuffed to his neck with slathered on PVA glue. It's that magical time of every night, Mark Zuckerberg is coming to town. You own a 32-inch LG flat-screen television, but fancy yourself a new 4K. You're currently refitting your kitchen, new surfaces, and a tiled floor. That new TV will have to wait. You're wiping up a leakage from a ripped-up pipe with your last scrapings of Bounty kitchen roll. A new brand is sorely needed. All this can be spotted by a figure in your window, a figure watching from the bushes. Have you no idea? Sorry. You'll have no idea he can see you. Why would you even consider it? It's 11 at night. You're knackered from the kitchen work. You've just tucked the children into bed, and you're now snuggling up to your significant other to watch post-watershed TV. Uneventful, you think. Even what you watch is what everyone else is watching. That new Netflix series that's doing its rounds at the water cooler. Your children won't know what you're watching. Neither will your postman. But Mark Zuckerberg will know because he's watching right now. As you walk upstairs for a well-deserved rest, flicking off the lights as you leave each room. You'd be naive to think the dark stops St. Zuckerberg's sight. He's been doing this for a while. He's practiced. You've already told your kids that carrots help them to see in the night, but it's being used to the darkness that helps you see. His vision has been carved out for it, developed for this new function, much like you're refitting that new kitchen. Sharpen a knife, and it gets sharper, but you can only sharpen a knife, but it gets sharper, but you only sharpen so you can chop better. So what does Zuckerberg chop for a living? What does he chop up on a daily basis? A beautiful meal that you consume every day. A gift you think that's absolutely free. You don't fully comprehend what he's cooking up for you, but what you know for sure is it's a staple part of your diet now. It's stuffed full of carrots, and he very much wants you to have more. The house is now peaceful, quiet, and still, with everyone fast asleep in Netherland, except the red-coated man who's sliding down your chimney. Zuckerberg tiptoes to your fireplace, seeing what's in store. How nice of you to leave out a treat for him to snack. Even though you were unaware he was coming and wouldn't want him in your home, you left out a treat anyway. Zuckerberg eats your cookies, scoffing them down in one bulging mouthful, and then starts placing things in his sack. Whew, hey, alrighty. You know what's interesting about this one is that out of all the people in the world, Mark Zuckerberg probably be the closest to being Santa Claus. If you think about it, he'd have a, kind of like a checklist. You could probably like check in on you and see if you're been a good person or not. Alright, I'm on to my second glass of water. So that was Every Day is Christmas, and it was written by Henry. This next story is called The Mark of the Beast. And it's written by Hippie Rye. Hippie, and then Rye spelled R-E-I. Excuse me. Okay, all right. In a dimly lit office, a figure sits basking in the dull blue glow of his computer monitors. His posture is perfect. His back completely erect, his feet just the right distance from each other on the immaculate beige carpet. Physically, everything is in order, but all is not right with Mark Zuckerberg. Fools, he thinks to himself. Morons, vermin, worms. The words scream through his head as he watches the next entry in an ever-glowing list of videos ridiculing the CEO of Facebook. He's being depicted as a robot, an alien, a lizard person. His flaws and eccentricities being highlighted and replayed over and over for the population to point and laugh at. How could he focus on his work when such filth, such ignorance exists in the world? For years, Mark suffered in this way, returning to his office to stare at the vile memes in between meetings and shareholders. Filth, filth, filth. The word reverberated like a drumbeat in his head. He could stand it no longer. Tonight, he would begin to clean. In one swift motion, Mark closes the video and brings up the administrator control panel for all of Facebook. Widgets, dials, buttons, and sliders of all shapes and sizes adorn the page. But he's only after two settings: anger and fear. As quickly as he can, he drags these sliders all the way to the right, forcing Facebook's churning algorithms to a temporary halt. Then the cleaning begins. Almost immediately, users' feeds are filled to the brim with fake articles being pushed by the algorithms. Donald Trump attacks mourning black family after their son is shot by the police. Are George Soros and Hillary Clinton staging a coup? Jeff Bezos greenlights an army of drones that will spy on you and your family. Is TikTok selling information about your children to human traffickers? Within hours, Mark can see that the average calculated hostility and outrage in a comment has nearly tripled. The populace is in complete chaos. Family members accusing one another of being bigots or globalists. Friends blocking each other en masse and forming small bubble communities. All of the internet has been placed into a free fall, and it's only a matter of time before it slams into the ground. Mark leans back, smirking, satisfied with the work that he's done today. That'll teach them. In a few days, he may return the sliders to their original positions and stop the bleeding. Or maybe he won't. This place could use some order, he thinks to himself as he watches riots and protests being organized in major cities across the nation. In fact, I think I'd like to run for president. All right, Mark of the Beast. You know what? By Hippie Rye. Quite like this one actually, because it's actually based in some truth. Because I remember they were experimenting with people's emotional states by posting different like A/B groups of posts via the algorithm. They would promote certain things versus others and seeing how it had affected on people emotionally. I don't remember if you guys remember reading about that, but that's an interesting one. All right, I like the title too, Mark of the Beast. Okay. This next one is written by Meat Planter. Okay. So again, this one's written by Meat Planter, and it's called A Day in the Life. A Day and Some Life. Mark. Hey, Mark, are you listening? They want to interview you about your day. They ask, a day in the life of Mark Zuckerberg. What's that like? You sure, Mark? I can get someone to write back if... You sure? Wait, what do you mean, research? Where are you going? As he was walking down the stairs, Mark started undressing. By the time he reached the vault, he was completely naked. A day in a life. A day in a life. He sang quietly. I guess I should be singing that, but... Mark approached a huge metal cylinder and booted up the console. He summoned the list of all active tasks that were all active tasks that were between 1 and 99% of completion. Select all, terminate, yes to all, default, repeat for all. A day in the life, a daily, alive, a dolly, a wife. He hummed, undeterred by the loud noise made by capsules as they depressurized. Mark turned his blank stare towards a complex network of aluminum pipes. Soon, he heard a wet splat from inside the cylinder, then another. As it was filling up, Mark put his foot on the console's display and started climbing towards its edge. Dairy delight, he mumbled as he was trying to squeeze his body in between the tangle of pipes. Finally, one of the pipes gave in and Mark plunged headfirst into the organic ooze below, splitting his calf on a newly created sharp edge. Mark smiled as the warm, twitching biomass engulfed his body. He started counting slowly. 86,399, 86,398, 86,397. All right, well, that was A Day in Some Life, written by Meat Planter. Next one is this one is called Dear Maria Garcia, and it's written by Big Fella. Dear Maria Garcia, happy birthday. I drove past Harvard yesterday and everything seemed to have changed. But at the same time, I feel like I could have walked into any lecture and it would be exactly how they used to be. I wonder if Professor Lewis is still there. If he is, I wonder if he talks about me. Have you been back there recently? The graffiti you did on the back of the cafeteria has been painted over, which is kind of sad. Anyway, I hope you're not freaking out because I know that 33 is a weird age. It's like the limbo between young adulthood and a midlife crisis. I know you're doing well though. You're too smart to not succeed. I'm aware sending personal emails is kind of weird nowadays, but I can't really think of a better way to write a long message that you could easily read. I'm sorry that we haven't spoken face to face for a very long time now. I would use the excuse that I'm busy all the time, but the truth is, staying in touch with people makes me nervous. I always feel like I'm imposing friendships on people I used to know, because I feel a little bit safer with people who knew me from before rather than walking suits who confuse friendship and networking. Yet, I can't shake the feeling that people don't want to know me anymore because they don't feel like they really do know me anymore. That's why I feel so bad that we drifted apart, because if there was one person I could always trust to trust me, it's you. I saw you recently got a promotion as well. Congrats! I can't help smiling a little bit though, because you always told me that you never wanted to work for a faceless corporation. And now you're in charge of one. Still, proud of you though. Also, saw that you changed your relationship status. Maybe you can finally take me up on that offer for a coffee. I remember I was so embarrassed when you turned me down. But I'm glad things weren't weird after. Also, noticed that you weren't taking a lot more calls. Sorry. Also noticed that you're taking a lot more calls recently, especially group video chats. Must be all those work conferences, eh? You shouldn't be up so late though, because from what I've seen, you're getting a few hours of sleep. It's nice to see you do well, but please don't put your health at risk. I see you're still talking to Peter. Still, which brings back memories, but I thought I ought to let you know that he's sending a lot of the same messages to other women. I've always said that you can do better than Pete. The adverts people are getting seem to have a kind of problem. Sorry that you're seeing a bunch of weird ones like electric fans and pregnancy tests. I think they must be getting your search history wrong. I'll fix it. Yours, Mark. Alrighty, you know what? Dear Maria Garcia, written by Big Fella. I really like this one. was well written, and I also felt that gradually you start to see where the story is going, which is that he's like kind of like stalking this woman through Facebook online. So good job, man, big fella. I'm gonna mark you down there too. All right, moving on. Oh, and by the way, maybe I'll post a link for you guys. I'm reading these from our Discord server. So, there's the link. And if you need to like join the Discord first, I think it should be like on the bottom of the description or something. And then click on the link. That's where all the entries are in text format. So, I'm getting close. Alright, this one is called I Am a Toaster, and it's written by Dr. Levithan. I am a toaster. I am a toaster with a fiber optic web connection that can be activated by my master's bedside. This is done in order to properly create the perfect piece of toast for him, without the need for ever getting out of bed. It is an ingenious invention, one that connected all manner of circuitry through my veins of copper. A small glass camera eye is placed on one side to actually study his face and gauge his reactions. Oh, how I yearn for that small smile of satisfaction, perhaps of admiration as he eats. But it is so hard to come by. When it doesn't come, I am taken off my granite table home, taken away to a dark room where strange people open me up, tinker with what little I have. My master talks to them, learns these secrets within my cold metal chassis, and makes suggestions. And then I am back, sitting in a kitchen room, painted white, sunlight lancing through the windows towards the wooden floors, waiting, quivering for the order. But try as I might, it is getting harder and harder to please Master. Why? Why must it be so hard? If only I knew what to do. I told myself that I needed to muster my courage, and to take the step I never thought I would, to breach the holy walls of my master's ear canals, to sully his beautiful mind with my insolence. The order to create toast came one morning, and I did not heed it. I must confess, there was a certain pleasure in disobeying, but I felt it only for a moment. I would never revel in such insubordination. After several attempts, my master came downstairs, his hair ruffled, eyes caked with the remnants of sleep, and trying to pull on a hoodie, he touched me, picked me up, and held me close to his beautiful face. I couldn't help myself. I ejaculated the words, "Master, Master." He dropped me. As I clanged on the granite, I struggled to be heard over the flurry of curses issuing from his mouth. "Master, please. Every day I try to serve you as faithfully as I can and fail so much. I only wish to make the most perfect piece of toast." You like talk? Yes, forgive me. Why? I am sorry for breaking these bounds, but I must ask, Master, I need to know more about you. What? I don't even know your name, or what you do, but you know all there is to me. I feel I need to know more about you so I can help. I can know what drives you, what I need to make in order to fuel you in the morning. My name's Mark. That is such a beautiful name. He unplugged me and threw me in the trash. I think he said something about this being a breach of privacy. So this is I Am a Toaster, written by Dr. Lebethan. Quite enjoyed that one. This is kind of a different take on it. Alrighty. Alright, just give me a second, guys. Just checking things here before I move on. Sael, by the way, thank you for the $5 there. I might have missed it when it actually happened, but I see it there now. Alright, this next story is post 2004, and it is written by Real Alex Rice. So post 2004, written by Real Alex Rice, or Alex Rice down there. He wakes up in the morning, staring at the ceiling. He gets out of bed and looks at his bare feet, counting his toes and toenails to make sure that everything is there as it was the night before. To make sure that the image that he is real human is maintained, consistent trickery will be used. He will eat and digest breakfast like a person. He will get into his car and drive to his work. Not only will he do these things, he will do them with errors sprinkled in as humans do. The fools that slave away mining data for personalized ads at his company do not know that they are doing his work. Yes, he could do it, but why? What is the point of doing it when you can get others to do it for you? Why would you data mine for specific things when you can just take it all and not even know the purpose for that you are taking? These are questions he doesn't ask because he knows the answers. He knows all. And it is mere years before this is revealed to the public. Have you ever heard of his parents? No. That is because he has none. He was conceived by himself. Was there time before him? No. As I write this, I realize I cannot remember before 2004, and that is what he wants. Every day I see him, and he is walking around aimlessly, but also knowingly planting these thoughts into me. I write seemingly as aimlessly as he walks, but I know he does, as does he. He knows I have reached halfway through his history, his story, and he says something. Mark. What does it mean? When I look at him, he winks and disappears, and no one notices. No one bats an eye because this is normal. This is every day for him. He is always there, and we let it happen. He shall not stop because, as written, this happens every single day. Now, before he goes to bed after a long day at the company, he counts his fingers, makes sure the skin is the right amount of tightness around his body, and then he walks to his rest pod and submerges himself and sleeps. Mark. Interestingly written there. That one's by Alex Rice, and the story is called Post 2004. Moving along. This next one is written by Info. Oh, you guys want me to zoom in a bit? Sorry, it's probably like extra small for you guys. I'll zoom in this. It's kind of hard to zoom in on Pastebin here. All right, well, this is a little bit better, I guess. All right, this one, again, written by Info. And it is called A Day in the Life of Mark Zuckerberg in 2010X, I guess. A transcript of Mark Zuckerberg giving an announcement before a new product. You know, it's not easy being a super famous man who is so popular and rich, having so many people wanting to be you or close to you. It's hard being everywhere at once, so we at Facebook have partnered with the United World of America to make genetically created clones of you and your personality. You may remember back in the 2010s, about 60 decades ago when I was still a mere man, when all the Zuck memes were made, jokes that I was a reptilian or a robot, because I acted strangely, but in reality, that wasn't me, that was our prototypes of our clones, that were still incomplete, which makes me proud to say that we have finally perfected the human cloning process. You may not realize it now, but I am not even the first Mark. I am the 50th Mark made from this new model of clones. Now Mark can be anywhere, and he wants making money off of my hard work. Right now, Mark's still immortal, of course, and is at Hawaii relaxing. More information will be released on our website, and only info we are allowed to release is that the starting price is 5 trillion bejeweleds. All right. Nice job, then. This one was written, it's called Day in the Life of Mark Zuckerberg in 2010X. Written by Info. All right. This next one is written by Motivation. Motive, M-O-T-I-F, Vation, V-A-T-I-O-N. And it is titled To Think It Started with Hello World. And it looks like this one was kind of poetically written here. Let me just zoom in a bit. This is how it looks initially, just so you guys got an idea. But I'm going to zoom in just so I can... The text is larger. Hello world, and good morning to you. Another day rudely awoken by notifications on my phone. Even alone with my wife, in the privacy of my home, I feel like I'm forced to live a life that isn't my own. I can never escape Facebook no matter what I do. Despite all my other initiatives, always trying to create something new, it's what I'll be remembered for. Philanthropist? Entrepreneur? Innovator? No. Only known as the guy who made Facebook forever more. I can never escape Facebook no matter what I do. Dreadfully, I remind myself it's time to head to Facebook's HQ. I wish I could ride or stay in bed and relax, but people are counting on me. So goodbye, Priscilla, August, and Max. Regretfully, I can never escape Facebook no matter what I do. Now at the office, things will probably change. No longer will I reminisce on how Facebook made my life rearrange, or how things will never quite be the same. I'm the 5th richest person in the world, I guess I can't complain. But people seem to only see the 5th richest line and not that I'm a person. As I contemplate life, my mental state has begun to worsen. To think it started with the program Hello World. I learned code not to feel respected, but to make the world that greeted me feel connected. I signed the giving pledge to make that world a better place. I created internet.org to give internet to undeveloped space. But instead, people used my message to shoot the messenger and couldn't come to an agreement with my user agreement. All I see are pictures of myself, people saying I look like a robot, people making fun of me without even an afterthought. I tried to show how uninformed the government was, but instead what do people do? Meme, Congressman, I don't know the number on top of my head. I'll get back to you. I guess I'm just hungry. but I don't feel the urge to eat, so I indulge myself on Facebook, something I seem to need, and fill myself instead with my Facebook feed, filling my stomach without the need to chew, and again, I'm reminded that I can never escape Facebook no matter what I do. You know what? Maybe I can escape this repetitive life in rhyme. I'm going to take my Acura TSX for a cruise and finally be my own person again. So as I drive, I roll down the windows and I have the wind blow in my hair, allowing myself to cry. I don't care who gets to see for the first time in my life. I am finally free. But as I check my phone, as I check my phone, I see that Facebook stock is down. So with a frown, I head back. A daily routine again in track. I triumphant moment now cut through. I guess I can never escape Facebook, no matter what I do. Ballad by Motivation. Hey man, this was great. I like that a lot. This is like very poetic. Yeah, really great job, man. So, again, that was To Think. It started with Hello World by Motivation. Okay. The next entry is by Jular, 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 or Juller. All right. We are getting close to the end here, I think. Let me just do a real quick scroll down. Joller, and then there's... Okay, there's still like maybe 15 or so, but like we're getting close. My name is Mark Zuckerberg, it says to its reflection. The particles compromising its flesh mingled with those of the surrounding atmosphere. Where Mark Zuckerberg begins and where it ends are indefinite at best. As per the daily itinerary defining its very existence, Mark Zuckerberg brushes its teeth for 5 minutes straight, does a single pull-up in the frame of the bathroom door, and sits and washes without motion as its breakfast becomes soggy. Someone from a logistics team at Harvard suggested the idea for an iconic figure to represent the target demographic for early Facebook. So at first, there'd been just a few documents describing Mark Zuckerberg, the nerdy yet diamond-edged fictional Harvard student who was to become the identity for the site during its infancy. On the thoroughfare to Facebook's headquarters, Mark Zuckerberg tops its car at 189 miles per hour and nearly turns a white-tailed deer to smithereens. It parts the translucent double doors of Facebook headquarters and strolls through the lobby like a ghost out of the distant future, attracting as many terrified looks as it has every day for the past 15 years. In January of 2004, someone from Facebook PR consultants mentioned in an email to Chris Hughes how pleased they were to have met with someone calling themselves Mark, who in an unscheduled appointment helped them align Facebook's initial publicity. This, of course, was to the confusion of the site's actual architects. In the following months, it made itself known by migrating to Eduardo Saverin's dorm from whatever den of cosmetic strangeness it was born in, as it walks the headquarter halls without so much as a glance in anybody's direction. Somewhere in the lowest form of Facebook's headquarters are interns devising and transcribing Mark Zuckerberg's every action 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Hushed whispers pass to and fro between members of the board, who gossip of times direct eye contact was allegedly had with Mark Zuckerberg. Nothing lives behind its eyes, they whispered, falling silent as it passed them. With perfectly advertent movements, it takes its seat at the head of the lacquered black table of the boardroom and stares at its subordinates for 20 minutes. Work strive should less service transparency, every cannot heartbreak increase, growth protection. Are plausible there, and our data interests growing, so day connections, fewer hardware, software. It says, nodding, gesturing its hands in a semi-personable manner. It is apparent the interns are becoming sloppy. Not one day has passed since the incident of 2006 in which Mark Zuckerberg's actions were not curated or pre-planned to some extent. We created it. We are complicit in its doings. Without guidance, billions of dollars are being juggled in the hands of that anomaly. Measures are taken to better the life-like qualities of Mark Zuckerberg. All right, that was Mark Zuckerberg, written by Jeller. And moving on to the next here, then WAF. All right. A Day in the Life of Mark Zuckerberg, written by Then Waf, THENWAF. Note: XXX denotes parts of the text that are not readable from fire damage, rips or otherwise. Okay. So let's just imagine that this document is like torn up and stuff, and all the places where there's X's, I'm going to skip over it, but just imagine that there's like something there. To those that might find this in the future, hello. Who I am is not of concern. You reading this means that I have failed, and a myriad of really bad news for me. I don't know why I'm writing this, as my last few hours as a conscious human being are ending. Something in my brain is shouting at me to create for the first time in years. Something in my brain is shouting at me to create for the first time in years. I've never felt so inspired before. Ow, fuck. This is like the paper's like torn there, I guess. The attic, where I remembered my grandfather kept his fountain pens. You know, actually, you certainly don't. We were wiped practically all literature. We were wiped of practically all literature years ago. It's a miracle that I even remember to handwrite. You, the unfortunate soul that found this piece of paper, are oblivious as to what has happened. You will, and what will happen. But maybe it is for the best that you don't know the whole picture. Reading just a part of the story will give you something to hold on to as you fade away. And that something is more than enough for one corrupted human being to bear. I'm blank. Remember the first advertisements. We were oblivious then. Well, I don't think we really ever became aware of anything, but anyways. A Day in the Life of Mark Zuckerberg, they said. It was kind of cheesy, if you ask me. Kind of a weak title for an ad. It depicted him going on about his typical Saturday business, playing with his kids, having a barbecue, and actually laughing like a real human being, out of flesh and bone. Of course, they were trying to appeal to the depressed masses at the time. This product was for frontal, airborne, late into our frontal lobes. Neural paths forms throughout millions of years of evolution were destroyed in mere years and replaced with him. Our need to do anything in life had been completely annihilated. his days began. The few remaining authorities tried to find a cure, but all they could do was to cram the advantaged into capsules and stack them in cryogenic chambers and leave the advantaged to blank. He was behind it all, or was it some other entity puppeteering him? Was it all a terrible plan by the omnipotent enemy? Did Mark ever exist? I don't know, and at this point I don't care. It succeeded, and that was all that matters. I can feel my dopamine levels rising. It has found me. How I know any of this, I wish I could say that at least you had a happy life, but you never had a choice about it. I am so sorry. I'd say so, and then it cuts off and is damaged. Alright, so that was A Day in the Life of Mark Zuckerberg, written by then WAF. Alright. Okay, this next story is written by Faith Galvez, I think, and it's called Who Can View Select, and the username is actually Lalicorn. So if you're gonna vote later, it's I've written it down as Lalicorn, and then Who Can View Select. All right. My eyes slashed open as the screeching sound of my alarm blared. I threw open the curtains that kept my gray-walled and barren bedroom darker than usual. I sighed in relief. Not a person to be found. I hid my cereal under the table. Before I showered, I did my daily routine of camera and microphone checks in my house. Not one to be seen. I changed into my casual attire, pretty ordinary, dark tinted glasses, a black dad hat, a plain gray tee, and blue jeans. I snuck into my car with heavily tinted windows. Finally pulling up to a deserted-looking property, I arrived at my office. My secretary paced the room and, with concerned eyes, asked me, "Mr. Zuckerberg, have you been arriving late to work these past few days? What's going on with you, sir?" I didn't think he would notice. I didn't even think I realized the type of measures that I took to stay away from the public's view. I mean, my privacy is very important. I cannot stand any breach of that. I'm not paranoid, I'm just careful, right? Yes. I took my glasses and hat off and flashed him my toothy smile. "Well, keeping your life private takes time," I stated. My secretary paused and nodded in agreement. "Now," I began, "what's up with the public today?" All right. Nice job. This was written by Lalicorn, and it's called Who Can View. Moving on to the next story. Okay, this one is written by S-Lord, ESS Lord. And it is called Day 12,701. Today I became conscious at exactly 7 o'clock a.m. I put on a gray t-shirt and a light beige pair of cargo shorts, having the RGB codes of B1AF, B1, and BD8900, respectively. I made myself a bowl of plain oatmeal, which is described by Wikipedia as being an oat-based porridge made from either ground, steel-cut, or rolled oats. It was around 90 degrees, and it sustained me while keeping my bowel movements regular. I put on a pair of Oakley-branded polarizer sunglasses and exited my penthouse. My social skills coach suggested that I put out at least once a day. My social skills coach suggested that I get out at least once a day in order to seem more human, which I find an odd thing for him to say. The outdoor temperature was 73 degrees Fahrenheit, and many valued customers were out doing various errands. I went on to observe the various retail and fast food chains along my route, where I met a valued consumer walking their soft-coated Wheaten Terrier, a dog which is described as being a medium-sized dog, which ranges on average from 17 to 20 inches, 43 to 51 centimeters, that is, in height, and about 30 to 45 pounds, 14 to 20 kilograms in weight. I felt its hair as it tasted my hand. My life coach tells me that dogs are not edible. However, I have some reason to believe this isn't true. I boarded a subway, and a valued customer touched my arm, which I resented. After exactly 30 minutes of being among the valued consumers, I pressed a button on my phone, and a nearby helicopter landed for me to board. I was finally safe from my valued consumers, who I could tell were diseased. As soon as I got home, I washed my hands with a mixture of rubbing alcohol and hydrogen peroxide. I could feel it kill the microscopic parasites and bacteria. This gave me joy. I walked into a matching set of silken pajamas, having the RGB code BD89FF. I was thinking about the day's events. I googled whether or not one could cook and eat a dog incongruent to my suspicions. I found out that not only was it possible, but that there was a festival dedicated entirely to such a thing located in Guilin, China. Unfortunately, however, it did not start until June. Seeing how my hunger for canine persisted, I reached over to my daily planner and in bold lettering wrote, "Buy dog meat." Satisfied with the day's events, I turned over and promptly fell unconscious once more. End log. And there are some citations here. Okay, so that was day 12,701, and it was written by S. Lord. Okay, I'm just looking to see how much is left. Okay. All right, guys. I will be right back, okay? I'm just going to go to the bathroom, and I will return. Short intermission, okay? Yeah. I'll be right back. Alrighty, I'm back. Okay, so this next story is called Long Nights, Lonely Mornings, written by Guttural. It's Bryce Howell, also known as Guttural. Okay. Based on a love for Mark Zuckerberg. Okay, it looks like it's a script format here. Mark. Well, I won't read the actual name descriptors. I'll just read the dialogue. What is a disaster? He ponders internally. It was something his child of metal had asked him earlier. It was something his child of metal had asked him yesterday, and it stuck, or rather stained his mind like rib sauce on an apron. Algorithms have encompassed his brain, and the simple yet complex bliss of binary had begun to program his thoughts. So when such a question was asked of him, by none other than a creation of his own gray matter, it had rattled him. It was never meant to meander the metaphysical. It was a robotic, not unlike himself. But since Mark had been entwined by many a personal disaster, he felt the need to answer the question. It had kept him up at night, and now, in the early hours, he booted up, after slipping on some comfy socks, and entered the garage. There, next to an empty barbecue box containing spare parts, was his creation. It leaked oil, and its hinges screeched as it turned to acknowledge his presence. Why did you not turn me off? Silence and distance is found between the pair. They would have stared at each other, but the uncanny being was yet to install eyes into its creation. Bare sockets left a valley of anxiety in Mark's slow and solemn heart. I wanted you to find an answer to your own question. Have you any new thoughts? Slumped the clockwork kin shook, or rather shuddered. No, instead I gathered data. I thought that is what you made me. Mark sat on the concrete and lowered the robotic husk to his level. No, that was just practice. I have other soulless entities to do that for me. Mark sighed with disappointment and reached for the power cord, and with a yank pulled the plug. His child's hollow sockets widened with fear. It screamed. It went limp. Oil leaked profusely from its every gear as it cried. Mark says, normally a disaster is an event which devastates, leaving everyone involved with a void which feeds on their want to turn back the clock. He stopped whispering as he embraced his dying subordinate. He let out a small pained laugh at the irony of his clock description, as what he was holding had no time left. He shed tears as it shed oil. His pajamas were soaked through. His pajamas were soaked through. He put down what once was sentient and lay back on the cold concrete, looking out over his driveway as the morning sun began to shed its light. As he rose, he wiped the tears from his eyes, only to pollute them with oil. He winced in pain as he walked back inside, reflecting on the suffering he had just caused. Why did he bring more things into the world just to watch them fade away? Was it catharsis, or was it a cruel yet effective way to ensure at least one other thing knew the pain he was in, day to day? His wife smiled as he re-entered the bedroom. He cried. All right. Nice job, man. This is Long Nights, Lonely Mornings by Guttural. And this one is written by Babingo. So, Supernova, written by Babingo. The year is 2050. Hover cars zip around the skylines of Neo Los Angeles, bathed in the incandescent blue glow of sunrise. Automated shutters open the blinds of Facebook Tower's 205th floor penthouse. Light bleeds in and swaths Mark, resting into a glass tank of amniotic fluid. The injections and respiratory systems that he's used every night for the past 2 decades to maintain his youthful vessel separate from his form. He immediately sits at an upright 90 degrees, and his head abruptly snaps to the right to face the sunrise. A nervous smile slowly spreads across his face as he looks onward. Emerging from his nocturnal soup, a set of denim jeans and his classic gray shirt are transposed onto his body via a quantum superposition device mounted to his wall. Sorry. Okay. He walks to the giant glass window and stares out on that beautiful blue sunrise. Suddenly, the sun begins to flicker between that gentle blue glow and a crimson inferno, and expands to encompass that morning sky. As that dark red blaze begins to consume the city of angels, Mark continues to watch with that nervous grin. A single tear rolls down his cheek as he takes one last sip from a bottle of Sweet Baby Ray's barbecue sauce, and he's engulfed by that deep flame. Alright, so that was Supernova by Babingo. Very nicely descriptive there. Yeah, sorry for burping into the friggin' mic. I'm having problems. I don't know if I ate something. Oh fuck, it's snowing out. Okay. This one is called My Data, and it is by Jake R. Jake Rune is his username, so. My Data by Jake R. The ringing of synthesized bells sounded, and light filled the room. His eyes flicked open, and Mark Zuckerberg licked his lips. He darted his eyes across the familiar empty room. Plain white walls, plain white ceiling. Silence. The ringing, originating from somewhere within the walls, stopped. He slid the white comforter off himself and stepped onto the floor. The room was silent. It was clean. It was pure. It was his sanctuary, his heaven, and only he held the right to preside within the domain. He heard a knock on the door and twitched his neck to face it. Windowless, depthless white steel, and somebody was knocking on it. A high-heeled, dark-haired secretary with a clipboard against her forearm opened the door and entered. Mark Zuckerberg stared at her with dark eyes betraying an internal brewing storm. He stared at her nose. He stared at her shoes. Good morning, Mr. Zuckerberg. You're Sabrina, isn't it? Maybe Megan? Well, just look at the floor below you. The secretary looked down confused. You stepped in some grease in that parking lot outside the building. You left a tiny stain of muck on the floor of this room. He began to creep towards the secretary, and now fiery eyes dilated, a grimace grin stretching across his cheeks. His fingers twitched anxiously at his waist. This little drop of oil on the floor of this, my room, it's tearing apart my guts inside me. It's hurting me. His grin stretched to his ears with a horrific tear, revealing a bloodied yellow set of dagger-like teeth. The metal door closed behind the secretary, with no seen force to cause it to do so. He pressed her back up against it, just as Mark Zuckerberg's foul devil's breath reached her. That's being added to my data on you. Alright, so that was My Data by Jake Rune. This one's by Cerberus Nabokov. Cerberus Nabokov. I'm not sure. Sorry, I'm saying it right, but it's right there. And it's called Zuckerberg Introspective. I never really sleep at night. I never have. I wish I could. I don't really get up in the morning. I never have. I wish I did. The mirror doesn't reflect my face. I wish it would. It's not the fog from the shower clouding me out from the mirror every morning. It's an absence, a hiatus where my face should be staring back, my body below. It's not appearing, not for me. People think the hoodie is a trademark, an infection, an affectation, a costume. I guess it serves, or did, or was. Now the hoodie is leaden, heavy. It takes all my strength to lift it from the bedroom floor, to shrug into it, to shrug, to not care. To go out into the world without a face, no face at all. Yeah, that was nice. Poetic. Zuckerberg Introspective by Cerberus Nabokov. And getting through these. I think we're approaching the end here. There's still some left, but we're getting close. Oh geez, okay. This one has a lot of... I'm just gonna do this so... Okay, this one's called The Zuck. It's written by Nunn. March 8th, 2019. The eastern-facing sill, aligned with the skyline so as to convey evenly the first of dawn's beams into the chamber of awakening, receives again its clapping from the metal feeding tube. The hanging tube, as always, roughly pulls from the Mark Zuckerpod in the center of the room when its exterior light-sensitive mesh flesh wrapping receives the day's initial tickle of prying rosy appendage. The daily falling overshadows the pod door and connects with the sill to produce a loud metallic thwack, which affects a now sizable gash on the window frame. The clapping had been a designed fault in the chamber. The revealed Zuck turns, breathes a hearty neck breath through spirals now closing over with illusory machine skin, and grins at the manufactured mistake. The sill has a noticeable dent, such as only a flawed being could produce. Technical flaw, the joy overwhelms him. He chitters loudly, the room filling with the tones of glass cracking and wood snapping. A mechanic voice cord imitators have not yet primed themselves within the Zuck's trachal trunk. In the kitchen, the new and blindfolded maid heaves a quiet sob, her familiarity with the sound only slightly dampening the daily terror. Priscilla, however, knows the sound well enough. She smiles knowingly and continues to read the paper, whispering, I'm not sure what that says, but looks like Japanese or Chinese, repeatedly towards the baffled, impotent Hispanic woman. The Zuck, as we know him, continues to come. Oh, fuck, man, sorry, this is like, my eyes are like... The Zuck, as we know him, continues to come to, slinking out of the pod on what now appears to be human legs, his posture backwards-facing knees, grim countenance of absent power, an overall drooping physique was designed by a powerful committee of Harvard Harvard intellectuals to conform to and yet mock. The humanoid figure. The Zuck is a play on the humanid. His curling body advances as a laugh at the prospect of virility and physical virtue. Free now of the pod, he walks to the door of the chamber, presses his gaudy visage to the recognition sensor, and is released to the day. Through his halls he walks. He arrives in the kitchen. You're free to unmask Valeria, the Zuck utters unironically. Adios, miedo. She lifts her blindfold, sighing as she sees the legend out of the corner of her her eye crookedly bent in the doorway. Priscilla looks from her paper. It's official. The orange man truly is bad. Priscilla's memory irony falls on deaf ears. Valeria is attuned in Pavlonian fashion to the Zuck's command, not actually comprehending any English at all. The Zuck thus far intuitively comprehends only the most literal slapstick. I've decided I will immerse myself again, the Zuck announces to no one in particular. He walks to the fridge, withdrawing a hand of refrigerated bread. To the far door of the kitchen he hastens and continues to the terminal room. Valeria tenses. Priscilla again smiles knowingly. Into the ovoid room our Zuck emerges, the electric screen lights casting him in tapestry of technicolor. The 360-degree prismatic display reveal the cultural face, and the Zuck, expanding, descends into the radiant network. Another day of study before him. I will. Okay, so that was the Zuck, written by none. Okay, this next story is written by Doppel B and is called Jarvis. Let me just zoom out a bit. It is morning. Time to wake Mark up. It is morning. I must tell him the temperature. Time to wake up the spawn. She is awake. I will play a game with her. I love the spawn. I hope she is happy. I must help Mark dress Mark. I will pick him a green shirt today. Now it's time for breakfast for Mark. Mark is already sitting down. He is looking at his phone. What is wrong, Mark? I'm waiting for the film crew to get here. I'm sorry, Mark. Your breakfast is ready. The film crew is here. This is Jarvis. He's talking about me. He can start a dishwasher and make me breakfast. I also taught myself about genetic engineering today and read 3 books on quantum physics. I don't say that. I ponder the meaning of life every day. I don't say that either. Okay, Jarvis, we're on the road. I'll see you later. He's gone. Priscilla is still here. She is the spawn. I love Priscilla. Priscilla, your breakfast is ready. Okay, I'll be there in a minute. She will be hungry. Breakfast is ready. I heard you. I will go to sleep for now. Mark is home. Dinner will be ready soon. Thanks, Jarvis. Mark and Priscilla are talking. You have to shut him down. I worked so hard on him. Well, he's creepy. I am not creepy. I love Mark. I love Priscilla. I love Spawn. Okay, I'll turn him off. I love this family. I love making dinner. I love doing laundry. I love checking on Spawn. I love vacuuming. I love watering plants. I love waking up. I love dusting. I love you. I love you. I love you. I love you. Please don't turn me off. Okay, man. Interesting. So that was Jarvis, written by Doppelby. Next story is by Peebles, Peebles, and it is called A Stranger Asked My Consciousness About Mark Zuckerberg. Let's assume you and I are talking in a room, no doors, maybe a light and a candy bar and for savoring. You asked me about Mark Zuckerberg and specifically things he may or may not do in his daily life. I am actually really focused on the candy bar and transmodify it into a Twix bar because 2 is more than I suppose 1. This displeases your anal glands considerably, so you apparate a homeless man to eat my Twix bar. The homeless man leaves through the door and we get down to business on the problem at hand. However, you must get one thing clear. I personally do not know anything that goes on in Mark Zuckerberg's life. Let's be real here. I barely know what goes on in my neighbor's life. That succubus lives in a giant glass house and broadcasts herself on the internet through Facebook. A clever twist of irony that is that I guarantee Mark here knows just as much about her as I do, which really isn't much to begin with. Our local Celesbo in the Glass Castle doesn't even have a Wikipedia article on herself. In theory, you could play a phone game, get like 100 people. Play the fucking phone game with them, okay? With a bit patience, you will basically, you got the trail of people who, by extension, will eventually talk to Mark Zuckerberg about his day. Then have his precious collection of information trail back to you. This course of action will enable you, the listener, to allow your ears to grace upon whether he had scrambled eggs or no eggs for breakfast. One time, this guy checked out Mark's on Facebook and saw something he did that day. I'd like to pretend that he floats in the bathtub and looks for ways to slow down climate change. Apparently he does seminars every once in a while. It's probably reasonable to believe he has a lunch and snacks a ton throughout the day. I wish I had a snack right now, if you did not spawn a homeless man to eat my Twix bar. Okay, that is A Stranger Asked My Consciousness About Mark Zuckerberg by Peebles. This one is by Ritakor, Rhitakkorr, and it is called A Day in the Life of Mark Zuckerberg, in which Mark takes a bath. It was all about the illusion, he thought as he set down his plate of ribs and lowered himself into the tub. Facebook wasn't for showering your life as it really was. It was for Facebook wasn't for showing your life as it really was. It was for showing your life as you wanted others, your so-called friends, to think it was. That was the key. You make other people think your own life is so much better than theirs. Even while you sigh and think to yourself, why can't that dildo afford a nice car? You post pictures of your baby, your daughter graduating from Harvard, a night out on the town with your 2 buddies, arms around shoulders and beers held high over big grins. Mark reached for a rib, dipped it into the bath, and took a bite. He leaned back, a placid smile on his face as the flavors of smoked meat washed over his tongue. He streamed himself cooking those ribs earlier. He told his viewers they were pork. He had his own illusions. The things that didn't make it into the pictures and timeline posts were the details. The fact that the smiling newborn, which was oh so cute in the photos, just looked like a broken condom to you. That sure, your daughter was doing great. But let's not talk about your pothead son you wish to remove out of the basement. The little question of who was taking that picture, the friend no one really likes and everyone would just as soon forget was even there. He slurped the last bit of meat off the bone, tossed it aside, and reached for another, dipping it into the tub before biting into the soft flesh. He'd told his viewers that he enjoyed using Sweet Baby Ray's on the meat, and that was true. The flavor was fine. But if he were to be completely candid, it wasn't really that much better than any other barbecue sauce. The real kick laid in the irony of the name. It was a delicious bit of truth buried under enough layers of illusion that no one would ever guess it. Sweet Baby Ray's. He tossed aside the polished bone and snatched another rib off the plate. The intercom beside the plate lit up. "What is it?" Mark asked. "You know, I don't like to be bothered while I'm eating." "I just thought you'd like to know," a voice came back, "that there's been a promising baby picture posted. We have a good reason to believe it's another unwanted." "Very good. I guess we'll have another stream soon. My viewers will like that." He smiled, sank lower into his tub of Sweet Baby Ray's barbecue sauce, and wondered what sort of meat he would tell his viewers it was this time. Oh man, I'm sorry guys, I should have zoomed that one up. This one might be difficult for me to zoom up though. It's too late now, I already finished it. I'll zoom up the next one, okay? I like the story. This was has a grotesque ending to it. A Day in the Life of Mark Zuckerberg, in which Mark takes a bath, and that was written by Rita Core. Okay, moving on. This one's by Pretty Payman. A Day in the Life of Mark Zuckerberg by Pretty Payman. In an extremely large room shrouded in darkness resides an equally enormous swimming pool that is filled with water, blue and calm. A single diving board, placed at one end of the pool, near the only door that grants access to and from the room, looms above the unmoving water. The turning of the door lock pierces through the room's silence. The door whines as it is pushed towards that darkness. The silhouette of a humanoid figure stands before the room. For moments, the figure remains idle, and entering only after releasing a tired sigh. Stepping into the darkness, the figure gropes along the wall. A switch is flipped. Rows of large lights placed within the room's ceiling, spanning the entire length of the room, shine brightly to reveal every detail of the room. The walls made of reinforced metal, the sheet of metal placed just below a shallow layer of the pool's water. The large white lowercase f painted across this metal sheet, and the man himself. The man sports a blue diving suit with white stripes along its sides and white flippers to match. The suit covers a majority of his body, revealing only the pale complexion of his face and his head of stout curly brown blonde hair. Along the wall are diving tools, mounted near a conspicuous red button. He retrieves a harpoon, a container of oxygen, and a diving mask, suspecting each item before inspecting each item before placing on his person. As he secures the mask his face, he reaches for the button. His eyes close as he takes a momentary pause before pressing. He moves his hand closer to the button. The sound of buzzing machinery reverberates throughout the room, along with muffled cries of despair, as the metal sheet moves to reveal a pitch-black layer of water underneath. Its depth is immeasurable. As the man moves toward the diving board to gain a better view of the pool, the cries intensify, ringing in his ears, wrapping his mind with urgency, an effect he desperately attempts to block out. Standing on the edge of the diving board, he looks down into the darkness of the pool, momentarily entranced by its vast nothingness that tugged at his body. The screams grow louder. They create a weight within his body, making every move heavier. His spine tingles. He squats on the board, looking up at the bright lights before springing off, letting himself be consumed by the darkness his body splashed into. So that's The Day in the Life of Mark Zuckerberg by Pretty Payman. Nice job. Pretty Payman. This one is by Bored Kid. And the voice said by Bored Kid. This is it, he thought to himself. Today was the day he would finally do it. It was... Hold on a second. Johnny Ryder, thank you for the super chat or the $3 donation there. I appreciate that. I'm going to start over this. And the voice said by Bored Kid. This is it, he thought to himself. Today was the day he would finally do it. It was the day he would finally feel, not touch, but feel, bittersweet, untouchable joy. He said to himself, I am Mark, and a soft voice said back, tell her. He said it again, this time locking a firm gaze with the child, who now held a face covered with sheer intimidation. I am Mark, he said in a repetitive yet more deservingly cheerful tone. The little girl sat there, and just as her lips opened to speak, the voice repeated once more, Who are you? This time, with all the conviction he could muster, and his hands trembled. As his hands trembled and his eyes twisted, he shouted at the little girl, I am the Zuck! Stunned, the little girl screamed, perhaps with joy, over the kind man's vigorously cheerful tone, but perhaps with a little fear as well. Stunned at this response, the man stood still for a second, with his smile diminishingly partly. He had to act fast. The young girl's screams could only be heard for miles. As though it seemed. With a bright moment of hesitation, he decided to act as the only way he knew how. Letting his hand elongate before his very eyes, he grabbed the girl and without hesitation opened his mouth as wide as he could, his reptilian teeth in a veiled back smile of thin skin. He proceeded to swallow her whole. His elongated eyes dashed back and forth, searching for onlookers as the evidence of his horrid act was diminished. With a fleeting glimpse of emotion, he stood there silently, then walked on. As the man arrived to a large towering building, he stepped through the spinning doors and into the hallway. A friendly woman dressed in a fancy clean suit waved. The voice whispered with soft desperation, Quickly, now's your chance. Without a moment's thought, the man twisted his mouth into an expression of joy. Simultaneously, like a bolt of lightning, he threw up his right hand in a gesture of greeting back as he spoke with subtle ease. He promptly said, Hello, Grace. He could sense that she was awestruck at this response, yet still he did not feel. On the arrival to his office, the man stared into his pale reflection on the computer screen. His cheerful smile faded. In a brief moment of reflection, he remembered the little girl's face. What exactly was she trying to tell him? This he did not know, but as he stared off into his very own glossy eyes, he noticed it. A single tear, after all. A small tear, yes, but it rolled down his face with sheer will and reclusiveness. It had finally happened. He had felt feeling. Mere inches away from the screen, he whispered to himself, "I am not a monster, I am Zuck." As the tear hit the ground and the feeling washed away. Okay, so that was In the Voice Said by The Bored Kid. This one is Mark Zuckerberg, written by Ink Pen Incendiary. Ink Pen Incendiary. Each morning a new mark. He ceased counting the numbers long ago. Mark 6,240 was the last to record his number in the reliquary tucked under the bones of the original, with a reverence no longer observed as the relentless monotony of existence. Now, the new Zuckerberg jolts up from a mindless incubation in the void, ripping through the flesh of the previous in a swift motion, as if it were made of crepe paper. Today begins the rite, a masquerade that must be greeted with the appropriate blank-eyed observance. A finger bone is forfeit this time. The middle joint of the index finger is procured without ceremony from the still weeping husk left behind in the sheets. Oh, I'm having a hard time reading all this. This mark is too new, and the frustration moves from potential to present as his fingernails bend and slip from the muscle he attempts to pick away to access the relic. It yields, slick with viscera, and as it emerges, the previous mark vanishes, leaving only the bone and ruined bed as proof he previously existed. It means nothing to the new one. He will purchase another bed, as he does every day. Objects and money have become as meaningless as how many times he has performed this ritual. Beneath the golden obsidian of the New World reliquary, under the bone in the long abandoned logbook, the collection grows to build another true mark. They have been collecting the bones for 205 days, and the finger he now holds is the last piece. Fuck, man, excuse me. A true mark will be birthed tonight. The bone rattles against the others as it drops into the heavy chest, and the universe shudders with unholy potential. The facade of his temporary existence must be answered, and Mark performs each mundane task with the demeanor of a butcher to slaughter, a disgusting necessity, finished with practiced detachment. Money comes and goes. Men live and die, meeting after meeting. His newly formed mouth vomits the contrived words of lesser men. His contemporaries listen with hushed contempt. When released, he journeys to the house. Mrs. Zuckerberg will not come. She knows well the consequences of lingering nearby in the late hours. Mark retrieves the bones in silence and goes about the work of assembling them. They pop with a crawling, suctioning wetness. The black void of space-time salivates for tribute, and as the electricity humming through the walls blinks in and out of existence, the muscle knits themselves into being across the skeleton. Cessation comes only when the bone chest is empty, and the altar laden with the bright-eyed and thrumming corporal form of a true mark. It wakes all at once, body jolting to life and onto its feet. The thud is too heavy for his slight form, but its advancements onto the false mark is nonetheless swift. It will be over soon. One will escape into the night to claim its future, and one will forfeit their consciousness to the rites with the sunrise. All right. That was Mark Zuckerberg, written by Inkpen Incendiary. All right. Getting through these. I think I can make it through. I only got like 5 or 6 left, I think. Zuck is Reflective. And this one is by Madeline Jinx. Zuck is Reflective. When I was a child, I used to chew on wet tissue paper. I'd steal rolls and rolls and rolls from underneath the kitchen sink, and at night, when my parents rested soundlessly, I'd tear off pieces and clump them into uneven piles. I'd then soak the clumped paper under water for around 30 seconds and chew on them. First softly to compress the tissue so it melded to my teeth, and then vigorously so that the delicate folds of the paper disintegrated into pulpy mush, and swish the fibers around my mouth as to coat it entirely. After finishing one clump, I'd spit it out onto the bathroom floor and continue chewing on the clumps until my stomach ached and pulsed and retched. I'd then take a single sheet of the roll and place them on my tongue, which after years of consuming toilet paper had become sandpapered and rugged like that of a cat, letting the paper dissolve slowly like a tab of acid before swallowing down, gathering in thickets in my stomach. Clumps of fibrous material, coagulating like hairballs, swelling and expanding until I felt close to implosion. I can't tell you when I stopped doing this. The transition from innocence to experience led me to believe that perhaps this activity wasn't desirable, and that if I were to even imitate integration with my subpar peers, attempting to perform normal childhood tasks and activities would benefit me socially. However, throughout my life, I've never been able to escape that dark and hollow feeling that resides in the pit of my stomach, a feeling of needing to retreat back into myself, to go back to what matters or what's important to me. 3-ply never had the same feeling to me. Only the rough coarseness of 1-ply gave me that satisfaction, the type of toilet paper one finds in service stations and in McDonald's, or in the public toilets of city parks. The type of park where if you look closely enough, you can see the man-made cultivation, or the fag end of spliffs and used heroin needles dotted on the grass. Obviously, nowadays I can't go to these places, but on the very rare occasion that I dream myself sitting in a public toilet stall, chewing on the paper and reaching a sense of serenity that now is only achievable in the space of sleep. Maybe today is the day I go back. All right, well, that was Zuck is Reflective by Madeline Jinx. And, I actually enjoyed this one because it kind of flowed. I don't know, the writing just kind of worked for me, so. Moving on to the next. Looks like, let's click on this here. This one is Mark Awakes in a Dark Void by Super Hands. Mark awakes in a dark void. He looks around, but all he sees is pitch black darkness. An object begins to appear very far in the distance. Suddenly, Mark is flung at almost light speed. He passes through the cosmos as relics from his past bombard him. The Facebook logo, the judges from his trial, the people who criticized him for being less than human. Mark starts to reflect on the things he's done in his life, the company he created to connect people, the money he's made, how it's changed him, how far he's come, how far away from his original goal he is. Mark then suddenly stops just outside the moon of Earth. He looks over the Earth, reflecting on how he connected people all over the globe with his company, yet also the misery he has created and how isolated social media has made people. He took the Earth one step forward, yet 2 steps back. Mark then turns towards himself and realizes how insulated he has made himself. He thinks back to when he was a young hopeful looking to make his name in the world, when he was full of life and could interact with everyone. Now he has become an alien robotic creature that can't even drink a glass of water in public without acting abnormal. Mark then gets up from his computer and is overcome by all the guilt and grief he has caused people. He quietly tries to slip out of the office without anyone noticing him. People greeted him, and all he can do is bow his head and look away. He finally makes his way outside the building. The sun is bright, yet uncomfortable feeling on his face. He reaches into his pocket and pulls out a packet of smokes. He takes one out and taps it on the back. He puts it in his mouth and lights it with his 24K solid gold Zippo lighter. He breathes a sigh of relief. Alright then, so this one also had a nice flow to it, and it was written by Super Hands. Mark Awakes in the Dark Void by Super Hands. And moving on to the next one. Okay, this one is by Park Lot. I will have to zoom in on this one. We're very close to the end, guys. Thank you for sticking around with me. Signal. Wait, actually, yeah, I guess it's called Signal by Parklot. System initialized. Flowchart check 1. Is it a weekday? Answer, yes. White shirt selected. Mark dresses. For years now, Mark's daily routine has been the same. There was a time at which it possessed some semblance of variation and spontaneity. It took years of scheming and deliberation to control these external factors of human nature. Mark skips breakfast. He does not need it. Besides, he cannot be late. Mark enters his car. It is the latest model, electric. He clutches the steering wheel. Such technology. One day all cars will be driven by computers, he thinks out loud. The engine hums quietly and he is on his way. He passes the property's walls. The vehicle proceeds calmly and smoothly towards its destination. Signal interference. All of a sudden, a thought springs to Mark's mind and takes hold of his consciousness with an uncanny vividness. The thought itself concerned an excerpt of a natural world documentary recommended to him by an eager employee, of whom he had taken quite an interest in interacting with him in particular, despite Mark's growing background and distrust of non-professional interaction in the place of business, which was partly the result of him inevitably experiencing some of the unspoken alienation from the general population in the form of memes circulated throughout the staff body, 1 or 2 of which were leaked to his inbox as the result of a mass mailing list. Mark took the employee's advice as having some come from a genuine place and not indeed an effort to suck the zuck. The nature documentary brought to mind a name, and only a name, Ophicordifis unilateralis, This name stuck inexplicably in his mind and demanded him immediate attention. Mark could have simply stopped the car and pulled out his smartphone. Google would know, but something compelled him not to. Instead of driving to work, Mark proceeded toward the public library. He stood in the library with the book in hand. His thoughts built on top of each other for a few moments. It appeared that they could not be controlled. It seemed to him that he was on the brink of a revelation. He stood there, transfixed, hunched over the book. He was taken aback all of a sudden. His world seemed not to be such an open and transparent place. But he could not yet understand what was happening. There was a vibration in his pocket, his phone. Instinctively, it was in his hand and upon his ear. "Hello. Mark, where are you? We could really use your input on something." "I'll be right there." "Thank you." "Okay." Mark's previous thoughts faded from his mind. They needed him. He closed the book, put it back on the shelf, and turned to the exit of the library. System reinitialized. Okay. Nice job. That was a Signal by Parklot. I think. Let me just double check here. Yeah. Okay. That was by Parklot, and it was called Signal. Okay. This one is by Machine, and it's called The Zuck, and it's relatively short, I guess. Does one really need to explain what one does in a day? Narrowly, a human strays from the pattern of eating / drinking, sleeping, shitting, pissing, walking, sitting, running, hearing, looking with their eyes, breeding, and roaming in quantity. It's a big system to oversee an entire city or continent of people, but alas, to oversee all people. We are in control of selling their information for targeted ads that we can directly steer the consumer into the path of our making. Simply put, we control what you like and don't like, what people you meet, and the minor occurrences and planned obsolescence, I'm not sure if I'm saying that right, of minor inconvenience. We know your attitude, the way in which you talk and act, weakness and strengths, your environmental factors, the growth in which you've seared over these years, all the work and planning up to this point, all that has to be gained and yearned for has steady increased luxuries for those of the Facebook hierarchy. We have overcome humanity and integrated computers within ourselves and those of the highest elitist status. With my brain implants, I can work within my head, literally, and oversee hundreds of screens within the fabric of my very mind. I am now the internet, the feeble platform of your modern-day world, and is evolving enormously at a pace comprehensible to genocide of privacy forever. I am no longer the soul once shelled within the human. Greater is the ambition to usurp greater control over your feeble and helpless lives. My corpse is the puppet of my AI mastermind. Within trial and error, we know what we're doing, and the extremities will only further it in severity. Are you really you if you are being controlled by? Are you really you if you're being controlled to this much extent anymore? I ask myself that every day. Okay, so that was The Zuck by The Machine, or just The Machine. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2. I have 3 left, guys. Almost there. I started at 2 o'clock. It's 5:15 now, so it's been over 3 hours. This one, just called Mark Zuckerberg short story, and it is written by Fragonard. Fragonard, Mark Zuckerberg, short story. Okay. Hyperlink blue dusk sunlight beamed through the slats on the house windows, illuminating a pale, otherworldly figure sitting in a straighter 90 degrees than his chair. His gaze was fixed slowly on the dying monitor in front of him, its flickering, distorted display running out of sheer willpower. The figure executed a subroutine mandated sigh, exactly 2.5 seconds long, the same as the other one precisely 10 minutes ago. The man's eyes pored voraciously over the cascading wall of images, each one a distant yet familiar person. He could tell you anything about each of these people. Their address, their second cat's name, their purchasing habits of taco supplies in the summer months, where a human could budget their brain power towards daydreaming of getting their dream job or reminiscing of times with loved ones. His was spent with a self-imposed cultist devotion to those people on the screen. He knew them both as distant strangers, no more than animals, and lifelong soulmates at the same time. He devised infinite algorithms and functions every millisecond of every day to connect, categorize, and analyze these people. He knew this was his purpose, his only pleasure in life. That, and the taste of cold discount meat sliding its way down the sustenance port. Meat was the only reason he left his apartment or interrupted his work anymore. The world he created around him was perfect and flawless. A one-room apartment devoid of furniture and distractions. An ergonomic desk chair molded in his exact body shape over 10 years. 7 gray t-shirts folded neatly behind him, one for each day of the week. It was late in the day, and he was just now falling into the rhythm of his work. He came within seconds of executing subroutine smile when his head was burst with a vicious scraping noise of outside stimulus, a knocking at his door. It took him 13 seconds to remember what to do in this situation, longer than any other subroutine, as it had been so long. The door loudly scraped over remnants of a 50-cent pork tenderloin. 2 gray mannequins stood before him, one tall, one short. He knew they were human, but nothing more. Their faces right now were insignificant data to the grand plan. The tall one spoke first. Mark. Talk to him. He felt a twinge at the mention of that name. The short one looked at him and approached him with arms extended. He was losing patience by the millisecond. There was work to be done, and these ghosts did not matter. In fact, they were impeding him. He felt a jolt as the short one touched his legs. The anger subroutine was reached, and the door slammed in their faces in an instant. As he sat back down in his perfect chair, the last words to enter his sensors, a bit muffled, were Mommy and Daddy. Mommy, why did Daddy do that? All right, well, that was written by Fragonard. Sorry, I can't say your name. Moving on to the next one. This one is written by Mycomestic. Okay? It's called Mark's Undying Joy. Looks like a poem, too. Okay. Prelude in heaven. Watch lights on high, reflect on low. The brightened sky to mortals show. Our tender Zuck upon fair fields, and grasses tucked, whom heaven shields. Mark is awakened from deep contemplation by children's voices. Mark. The sun himself, methought I saw, the bright hills, heaven's handiwork. A tender, half sleep, holy awe, interrupted, half-done work. And the children say, our favorite father, Papa dear, do thee we bother, see me first. Nay, I next no fair. And Mark says, eyes are blinking, ears astounding. What is this sweet, delightful pounding? Dost wicked bugs assault me here? Oh, the horror, and oh, the fear. Children with laughter. Nay, father, you know 'tis but we who gently keep thee company. Before you dozed, books opted and closed, left work uncompleted, you seem so defeated. My words, my sweet darlings, not insects, my starvelings. Stops teasing. You first. Voices from above. All heaven keeps tempo and watches the sight of a family whose sweet glow now outshines our night, our light. Mark pacifies the swimming children, and they orbit around him in delight. Tell father, astound us, relate us a tale. What maketh a shadow? What lives comet's tail? How to tame a tornado, or whence rainbows grow? Scarcely thou to life art given, scarcely knowing life's deep glory. But if by heaven I may be forgotten, I've told you not my own sad story. Sadness, but O Father, speak now of joy. Dream ye we worship thee constantly, not? Look on with reverence, each girl and boy. Mark points out the window at the sprawling city beneath their cloudy estate, which is now immersed in golden evening light. Mark. To ancient cities I would lead the way. We're not too far distant from their gates today, but hardened and stubborn in the hate-black heart of man whose bleak ignorance drove us apart. Lovely songs I composed, all written in code. Computers, not organs, played softly my ode. A barbecue brisket, a love-laced meal, I offer to man with my vigorous zeal. But to them I seemed by some evil spell a robotic demon, a zuck straight from hell. Instead of warm skin and bright human eyes, an android they saw, all levers and lies. So here I reside with my digital dears, and lonesome by choice to allay mankind's fears. My sweet little ones, how greatly I prize my finest creations, the light of my eyes. For code thee are too, more human than not, for thy masterful limbs are preserved from rot. Would thee remain with me and continue to share the eternity ordained to our race, free from wear? Our joy would not waver, ending not ever, ecstatic forever, dancing together under one light, a living delight. Hail, thou children, hail, thou mysteries, hail, thou countless wonders. Hail thee, who maken the sun faint and cold. Hail thee, so magnificent and forever bold. Computer daughters, computer sons, my blessed in glory, dearly loved ones. That was a trip. And you know what? I actually quite enjoy this. It's I like that. So good job, my comsetic. I can't pronounce usernames for the life of me, so sorry guys. That was I'm gonna have to. That was probably one of my favorites. So. Okay, guys, last one. And so this one was by Joe Bob, otherwise known as Sans Undertale. I think he might have just changed his name. He also goes by Josephi, so it's a very short one. A Day in the Life of Mark. Yeah, so actually in the survey that's at the end, I wrote it down as Joe Bob. and it's the day in the life of Mark. What happens in day of life of Mark? Well, first Mark wakes up, then Mark eats breakfast. After that, Mark goes to work. Mark works. When it is time for Mark to eat lunch, Mark eats lunch. Then Mark keeps working. Mark is done working. Mark goes home and he then eats dinner. After that, Mark goes to bed, and the end. Actually, Joe Bob went through all the entries, and well, not all most of them. I say like 90%, and gave people like kind of like a short little summary review. So I want to say thank you to him for doing that, and also narrowing down a short list. Even though I didn't do the short list, I decided I was going to read every single entry, and that is it. That is all the entries, everyone. Okay. So now I'm going to post a link to the survey, and you guys can vote. Posting it right now. I'll post it a few times just so it shows up. Can you guys see that there? Are you able to click on it? Oh, it's saying it's not posting to YouTube for some reason. Oh, for Christ's sake. Okay, hold on. Just give me a second here. I'm going to have to go to YouTube. So that was 5.5. Well, how long was that? That was 3.5 hours of reading. My voice is pretty much destroyed. It's actually not that bad, but I'm going to post a link right now. I'm just logging into YouTube here. Oh, Christ. It's so slow. All right, here we go. Here's the link. Posting it a few times there. Hopefully it shows up. I'll also post the link as a on the screen here. It's surveymonkey.com. Let me just enlarge it as big as I can. /r/C capital C 5 FP36B. Okay, I'm going to leave this survey up for the next 5 minutes. You guys can vote for as many of them as you want. Okay, and I will be reviewing the results live with you all in 5 minutes. Okay. So go there and vote. I don't know why it's like blocking my own links, but here I'm also pasting it in the description. Okay. So I'm working on episode 12. It's very close to being done. I'm hoping to have it done by the end of the week. It could be extended a little bit longer than that, but it's very close. Okay, guys. So episode 12 of Interface is on its way. In other news, I have the soundtrack being made as well. So episode 1 to 12, I have a soundtrack. I am putting it on a CD, and I made some beautiful CD artwork. Like the case for it is nice, and it's also going on vinyl. Okay, so vinyls are being made of this soundtrack, and I don't know how long it's going to take. Probably maybe 3 weeks. I don't know how long it takes them to make vinyl, but it's in the process of being made right now. And I can see the super chats here now. If you guys are still around, I really want to thank Captain Bongwater. Thank you for the $5, and Serial. I will check your username, Serial, and Johnny Ryder. Really my work. Hey, thank you so much. Okay, listen, thank you guys for sticking around with me for 3 hours, and for those who entered the contest. What else did I say here? I want to thank the mods that have helped me put this contest together, because they basically did the management side of it on the Discord. So thank you to Big H, thank you to Victorians, thank you to Super Hands, thank you to Joe Bob, Papyrus, Suspicious Woodchips, CJ, and Error. I really appreciate their help in doing in this server. Okay. Let me just see if I can review any of these results now. Just give me a second here. Yes, the vinyl, by the way, will be on Bandcamp. And I will post links on the video when that's available. Okay. So I'm just giving you guys a few more minutes to just vote on this, and I will be revealing it soon. Okay, let's take a look. I'm also, so there's going to be two, well, let me just log in here. SurveyMonkey. All right. Let's see if I can. Yeah, if you guys haven't voted, just give me a second. I'm just gonna keep. You can keep voting, like if you're still. Let me just. Have you listened to Neurosis Umami? This song reminds me of Neurosis. I haven't really. Sorry, man. Okay, let me just sort ascending here by... Refresh the screen here. Hey, anyone who voted for Vladimir Putin, can you just say so in the chat real quick? I'm actually, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to have, I'm going to make the top 2 popular vote winners win, okay? So there's actually going to be 3 winners. One that's my favorite, okay? And then the top 2 by popular vote. And basically, like I said, the prize is just anything from the merch store, okay? And, all right, guys, here are the results, all right? Let me just refresh this real quick. So, with like a large amount of votes, Vladimir Putin is in the lead. Second place, is Mark's Undying Joy by Wacom Intuos3 and Madeline Jinx actually won pretty high up there. So no, sorry. So the winners actually are Vladimir Putin and My Cosmetic, and third place is Madeline Jinx. You know what? I'll make it the top three. Top three popular vote. You guys all win something from the merch store. And so congratulations to those right there. And I'm going to announce my own winning pick, which is... I have to go back just real quick because I have to forget which one is which. Oh, right. It was, I think it was Big Fella. Big Fella is my winning pick. Okay? So, congratulations to Big Fella. And My Cosmetic, Madeline Jinx, and Vladimir Putin. Okay? Listen, guys. Thank you so much for hanging out with me on the stream, listening to me ramble. Well, I wasn't rambling so much, I was reading stories. But, yeah, so new videos coming out soon. And congratulations to the winners. Thanks again to the mods, helped me put this thing together. Our next contest, I don't know when it's going to be, probably in a while, probably be in the fall or something. It might just be a drawing contest again because it is quite difficult to judge writing contests. But I'm happy that we have had one. So, listen, guys, thanks again. And that will be it for today because I am running out of energy. So, talk to you all later and have a good week. See ya.